Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Swizz.
I think you almost forgot there against me.
Swizz
Is there a delay because I thought it was not daylight savings time anymore.
he's half naked, I swear to God. He's half naked, everyone.
Not
Swizz,
that that's a bad thing.
thank you for joining
I'm
us,
here,
Swizz.
boys. How are we, boys? How
Good,
is
mate, good.
everyone?
Good. Look, thank you for joining us. Welcome back. This is round 6. This is where it's time. Do you have patience or is it time to go hard and go get them and burn those trades and use all those trade boosts? But before we move on, SC Insider 100, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, all our audio platforms as well. So, SC Insider. So, look us up on Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, you name it. And Chris.
On the YouTube, search for us, Supercoach Insider. And yes, we are making $2 per 1,000 views. So thank you very much.
Yes, please do like, subscribe. I think we've had
Jump on.
We've had 200 followers since we've hit the 1,000 mark.
think
So
people-
stoked.
People have noticed that, if they jump on the old YouTube, it may only be them watching it there instead of listening to it on their podcast, but that means that they actually will contribute to the podcast, and you can do the same. You can do the same.
And
We want you.
we want you. Acknowledge us. Scoops. You
That
fuckwit.
was a good one. That was a good one.
Fucking scoops. Today, obviously, also brought to you by Splash Vodka. So splashvodka.com.au. I'm going to crack
Yes.
open one of these.
I opened one of these earlier on the other potty, and it is very nice. Thank you very much.
Splash Vodka.
What are you on
and
today, Swizzy?
Just a little lemon bitters, mate. Nothing too fancy at the moment.
Refreshing.
Fair enough. No, that is so, dude. That's so good.
And also brought to you by earnu.io as well. So your cryptocurrency betting, earn some free cryptocurrency by making your predictions. And obviously Richmond Swizz fucked me this week. That was my last leg in that multi to win cryptocurrency, about $25 worth. Screwed me. My free bet. I'm really upset about free bets losing.
Yeah, well,
If it's free, it's me.
mate, you're actually, the way I've actually been tipping this year. If I tip the Tigers, actually no, I'll tip the D's this week. The Tigers will get up because I'm 0-4 with Richmond's tipping this year. So or whatever we are 0-5 now. So I
Someone's
might
got to
just
knock off the D's,
tip
right?
against us each week.
It's like Melbourne a couple of years ago. I just kept backing them in and they kept losing. It's about 2 years ago.
I saw this crazy stat just before we actually get into the podcast that the consecutive games that Melbourne have not conceded a 100 score is 54. Melbourne haven't conceded 100 points in 54 games. That's insane. And I think the next closest is like 7.
Yeah, Brisbane are pretty close there, but
Pretty close.
pretty...
Yeah, 47 away.
Pretty close on 7.
Pretty close there. Okay, so let's talk about format today. We're going to look at strategy. So at this point in time, there's a split crowd, realistically speaking, where some people are like, now's time to go. Time's to go, all right? And people are doing absolutely crazy, outlandish bullshit, trading people that have like another 50K, 70K to make. Is the time now to go hard and crazy, boys, or is it time for patience? So, Swizz, we'll start with you about strategy and what you're looking at. Chris, we'll go to you, and then we'll come back to me to finish off strongly, as always. I like a strong finish.
glad
Right
that you're
now, I'm just
finishing,
looking at banking. Yeah, that's good. Now, right now, I'm just trying to bank some cash for next week. I'd like to go earlier on Oliver and Track, but their break even, especially Oliver's, so high. Though I think he's going to probably carve us up on the weekend. So that's what I'm trying to do is build enough cash so I can bring those two in with no dramas. Obviously Bruce is definitely ready to come into my lineup, and then it just depends on Rowell or Horn-Francis, which one of them goes down to a rookie to even bank some more cash. So yeah, for me, I'm likely to take a little hit this week. There's an option to use a trade boost and maybe go after a Brazier or a Walsh and not do that. But I'm a bit more on the conservative side and go, no, I want to wait until the value comes next week and get those midfielders. But yeah, I know a lot of people out there are looking at doing the opposite and try to go and move up your Rowell and Horn-Francis actually to premios this week. But yeah, so that's the way I'm playing at the moment, boys. You?
So I'm pretty much on your. I'm a little bit hamstrung with what I can do because I have Hall as well. So I've got to sideways him regardless. because I think he'll be out for at least 4 weeks. So he needs to go, which kind of
Oh, how does that feel, boys?
means that he's going to chime in early. Oh, he's going to come in.
How does that feel? I nearly brought in Aaron Hall this week. We had a look on the podcast, fixing my team, speculation that he was maybe not going to get up because he had hamstring tightness or whatever, and I dodged a fucking bullet. How does it feel, boys?
I'll tell you what, I was watching the game, and in that first half, I couldn't believe he scored that much for a start because he was like basically walking around the park. He wasn't running like he usually would, and he's clearly hampered the entire first half. So I thought, I'm like, did they just think that they could just like ease him through the game and get him in and like whatever, and at least he'll be able to kick the football, but he won't be able to run. Like, I don't know it was a bit strange. But yeah, to go back to it, so I'm a bit hamstrung there. So I think... no pun intended. There are certain teams though that may be able to do upgrades. I mean, I know that for example, this guy on my right here, he's got cash in the bank and he may be able to do an upgrade.
I don't have much cash anymore, mate.
Oh,
No
you just
cash.
sold it last week.
No cash here.
No cash here. If you've got guys that are capped out in their rookie price, and you go, obviously, Bruce is the one that everyone's trying to get in. There's also Roses. I mean, if you're going to make enough cash, you could potentially move this week. But a lot of the rookies that people are looking at are due to make a lot more cash, at least one more week. And you've got guys like Josh Ward, kind of had a bit of a comeback game with his 65. Do you really want to be moving on to him? It's around the corner. The last quarter that he played, where he was actually really, really good, scored quite a lot of points. He could have made like 40 points that last quarter if it wasn't for that free kick that he got real late in that game. So free kick against. So, he's just on the edge. He's on the edge. Even Connor McDonald, had another 54. Do you really want to be getting rid of him that early? I think Jackson Mead's one you can definitely move on. I think that 29 is going to stay in his cycle for a few weeks. Do you really want to be holding on to him for another 2-3 weeks for him hopefully to get back? And there's others coming back into that team, so he may not even be best 22 next week. Horn-Francis, he definitely still has a lot of more cash to make. I mean, we've already seen his upside. Yes, he may not have scored well last week, but he got a lot of the ball. He just butchered the hell out of it.
And a 50 against, I think.
Yeah, so, I mean, that 39 wasn't... I mean, I think he still had close to 20 disposals, didn't he? Like, it wasn't like a really bad game. It was just... You just couldn't use it. And every time he tried kicking it forward, it went to as a clanger kick. So, Berry, is he ready to go? Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of guys just aren't ready. I understand the want to trade Matt Rowell, but you could probably hold him. But with that 100 break even, he's also probably going to lose cash unless he can bust out another one. He's one, though, that you can probably hold to the buys if you can. But I do understand that you can trade him too. So every team's going to be different, but I wouldn't be going out and trading guys like Rochelle. He needs at least another week, If you've got guys on your pine, maybe...
Yeah, Hinge, McCartan, both
these
have...
guys, McCartan, people are trading out McCartan.
Low break evens.
He's been one of the most consistent, performers and cash trajectories. Just keep ticking along. He's going to get an 80 or 90 in a couple of weeks. And if you're not going to have him, he's going to miss a lot of cash gen there. So, I think people might be going a little bit early, but there are rookies available, and there are rookies available next week. So have a look at next week and have a look at the rookies too, and work out which direction you want to go. Because from my perspective, guys, and we'll probably get into this a little bit in a bit, but there's really 4 rookies that you could potentially go on in the next 2 weeks. So if you don't have all those trade out targets, what are you going to do? So that's an interesting point of conversation moving forward.
Interesting. Speaking about interesting points of view, Swizz, how many in a ratio do you think Chris spoke longer about strategy than you did? Is it about 4-1?
4-1 easy, 5-1 maybe.
I know, right? If only he had his own podcast that he literally just made me sit and fucking listen to. Talk about strategy. And now I've got to round it up, and I've got to fucking...
Must admit, Benny boy, I was sitting here nodding to a lot of things he actually said, so... So Chris,
thanks, mate.
On the money there.
Thank you. Yeah, see, an avid listener turned Supercoach
up. But see, now what have I got to say? I'm like, okay, yeah, I agree. I agree with Chris now. Okay, so for me, strategy comes down to what you're playing for, particularly. So if you're going for points overall, I'm looking at, say, O'Driscoll. I'm looking at Dacos probably being better on-field scorers in defence. So if I have an opportunity to maybe move a hinge or something or other to upgrade a premium on field, then I'm considering it. But definitely, I'm also like Chris looking at Petrarca. If I can afford him this week without moving on Rowell or Berry, if I can get rid of those shit rookies, and I've been...
Got to get the shit rookies off the field.
But by shit, I don't mean like that they have more cash to make. I mean, am I willing to risk another a Mead or a Horn-Francis or a Rochelle or one of these rookies that can bust out a shitty 39 occasionally and just hurt you a week? If I can get them off field, at least I know with Berry and with Rowell, we're disappointed when they're getting like 70. Do you know what I mean? So I can deal with that problem later. I'm looking at points on field. Can I upgrade these guys to a premium? If I can, I'm doing it. Otherwise, I'm probably going to wait a week and then downgrade. So I'm pretty much, I've already got Prusy, so I'm looking at Roses this week as well. Try and bank a little bit of that cash. I'm looking for that onslaught next week. But I'm looking at Petrarca. I'm looking at Clary. I'm looking at Lloyd. And I'm looking at some of those DPP. So Pendles and Parker kind of come into the conversation. But
you know, guys,
the Zork,
I think all your strategies would have been solved had you traded Grundy last week like I did.
Oh. Hey, you have Aaron Hall, so fuck you. And
oh god, I had to get one little plug of my hero call over here. Yeah. Hey, Swizz, how good was it watching the flames of Aaron Hall?
Oh, that was a fucking train wreck.
Sorry, the flames of Grundy.
I'll give you a little story here. So I'm watching the game. I might have even been watching in the other room. And my wife was like, she was watching something else. And she's like, I'm done with it. I'll put the footy on. So I go and sit next to her, and it was just about to come up to half time. And she's like, I think that's Aaron Hall. He's just done his hammy. And that. No. I tell you what,
just lying there on the ground.
Within 5 meter radius of me, it got thrown. God, I've never cracked the shit so
because
hard.
It finally looked like he was gonna ton up too.
Hey, shout out to George as well.
He was going to go 140.
Yep. George Supercoach tweeted as well because he said, "Man, I heard you crack a beer open from Adelaide when Aaron Hall did a hammy."
You could definitely just imagine you just in a grandpa chair.
I had to retweet it, man.
I was like, rocking chair as well, and he just leans back and he cracks his beer.
There has never been a tweet that's more accurate than me celebrating an Aaron Hall fucking injury, and even more so that I nearly brought him in. And I think I told you I had this deja vu where I brought in Aaron Hall and he got injured. And then all that talk last week, I was like, I can't bring him in. That was the only reason I didn't bring him in, and I got extremely lucky, boys. So,
all right, well, let's move on to cash cows, I guess.
Yes.
From here,
to Bruce or not to Bruce, boys. Now, on field, R2 or R3 is probably the biggest separation. Swizz, we'll start with you first. Now, Bruce, would you pick him up? He's 204,000, has a break even of negative 93. Would you pick him up at R2 and would you pick him up at R3?
So I went early on Hayes last week, and we were
Sam Hayes.
Bring up a fucking yes. So I was debating between him and O'Driscoll.
Oh no, you didn't. You didn't get O'Driscoll.
Oh, I did because I just did not like O'Driscoll's job security. Hated his job security.
It's tough.
And then I had to sit there all on Sunday and watch him friggin' dominate.
But his nickname's Drizzy. Drizzy Rascal.
Just ridiculous. Like he was seriously next out. And then he absolutely carved. He tore us in a new one.
Some people think you're bonkers.
Could not get any worse. And the reason I did it,
see what I did there?
And I went early on Hayes is because I wanted that extra cash because I sort of was already planning out what I wanted to do with my upgrades and downgrades the next 2 weeks. And I already knew what I wanted to do with my ruck line. And that was Tim English into the forward line, Bruce at R2, and my backup being Sam Hayes. And I want to double upgrade in the next couple of weeks and not have to worry about, what happens if another rookie comes up and I have to downgrade. Use a trade boost to get that extra rookie and then have to choose between one or two. So I'm like, no, I'll go get Hayes and that. So that's another story, missing out on a Driscoll. But yeah, so with Hayes in there at R3, I'll be bringing Bruce in at R2. And Hayes becomes my my cover for that. So I know a lot of people aren't going to have Sam Hayes there, but they'll still have Dixon or the other, the St Kilda Hayes, who look really good on the weekend. So if you
could have been a 130, 140, by the way. Anyone who watched that,
it could have been.
Honestly,
I had him.
He dropped about 4 marks that were like absolute sitters, but then still recovered to get the contested possession and handball out.
And I played.
So I said it. Sorry, mate. No, I said it last week where if you've got Tim English in particular, yeah, that's just a no-brainer bringing in Bruce because you've got that cover. Or the following week, if you're going to downgrade and bring in Sam Hayes, well, he's enough cover anyway. He showed enough. He looked really good, actually. He's been in their system for 4 or 5 years now. He was the number one ruck he got drafted, and he's physically matured. So I've got a lot of confidence in him rucking, and there's nobody taking his spot. It's not like they're going to throw Finlayson in there because he looked absolutely terrible, just playing in his half forward role, let alone have to, take the whole ruck role. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident with Bruce and Hayes to take me up to the buys at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, O'Driscoll, if you didn't get him, I think it's unfortunate. He's too expensive now, even though he's second on the list, but he's 238K. He's now 110,000 more than he was. I shared those reservations. Now, I had him as my loophole to start the year, so I was kind of lucky in a sense. But even then, Tucker was the sub, and Tucker plays wing, and they were saying O'Driscoll played so well in the game before that on the wing, so they couldn't get rid of him. Right, so Tucker is literally the next person in, and he couldn't get his spot, so they put him as a sub. So O'Driscoll was literally one bad game away from losing his spot, except he's killed it again. So if anything, it probably puts more pressure on the other wing or another midfielder before him at this point. So if you did get on him, congratulations. It looks like he's going to still make about another 90 to 100,000 over the next couple of weeks, which is absolutely ridiculous. I nearly got rid of him 2 weeks ago, but in my head, I had Chris saying O'Driscoll's going to be one of the best money makers in the season, so I dumped Rochelle, and now I was like, at the time I was like, oh, what a shit move, but now fucking laughing.
Fucking Cotton. Look, yeah, so I agree with you in terms of Driscoll. I don't think you can get him in now, but
Prusy,
does he need to be on your field? No, but I would say if you're playing for points, yes, because you can use the points on field. So if you're playing league, he's just a cash cow. You can bring him in at R3, he'll make his money, whatever. But realistically, you want him on the field if you're going to make the most of points, because what it does allow you to do, which is why obviously I traded out Grundy last week, having Bruce on field allows you to field one of these other forward rookies that are all having pretty good years. You've got Nick Martin who's averaging 87. You've got Jack Hayes who is going to kill it again next week, most likely. You want to try and field those guys if you can. You've got Rochelle that's popping off 100 every second week, so you want to try and loophole him if you can. You still got Will Brodie. You've got Tristan Cherry. You've got all of the Canelio. The amount of forwards and forward mids, and now we've got Roses as well coming in. You've got so many guys that are averaging over 70 to 80 in the forward line, and you want to try and get them on field if you can.
And rucks as well. I mean, you've got Hayes coming through. Bruce is on the bubble. Even then, was it Max Lynch? Now looks like the other guy's done his shoulder, so he's another option, but he had a score of 11 and then got knocked out first
so you've
round.
actually got a couple of weeks with someone like a Max Lynch, because even on week 3, because of that 11 in his cycle, he's not really going to go up much cash at all. I think his break even at the moment is like 70.
Yep.
So he'd need to have 2 really big games for him to even make cash.
Worth noting, his low score, he was also a partnership in that ruck, and he got KO'd, so that kind of really killed his scoring. And that's kind of why. So that's why last week, some people thinking you guys are absolutely outlandish and crazy, and they may be correct, but when you're talking, it kind of stacked up. There's lots of ruck scoring options that you can put on field for a rookie, and some of those midfield rookies started to shit the bed. Yep. So it really stacked up, and I didn't go that option because at the time I thought Grundy was still a good pick. And now, even then at the start of the year, I was like, haha, Gawn's being shit. Grundy's actually looking all right, ladies and gentlemen. And now, before I noticed it, I looked down and going, fuck, I've got an issue.
Timing is everything too. What's also happened is obviously these changes to the DPPs, but specifically with the rookies. So you got Nick Martin, obviously, that's jumped into that DPP. You got Connor McDonald now. So now I don't have to worry about having the M8. I can swing Nick Martin on my field.
Perfect.
Play someone like a Jack Hayes at F6 instead. Or hell, I mean, even Hugh Dixon, I only got 55, but I'd rather have Hugh Dixon on field than someone like Connor McDonald or Josh Ward at the moment.
Hell
just
yeah.
Sputting it up every left, right, and center.
Amen.
I think the important thing for right now is trying to get the worst rookies off your field as possible to play the good ones, because there are so many good ones. There are so many. So getting O'Driscoll on field if you can. Getting Nick Dacos on field if you can.
Mate, Horn-Francis out on my fucking side. Martin at my mid-8 or whatever it is at
Absolutely.
the moment. So much better. So much better.
So the flexibility of these dual position things that changes has really allowed this week especially to have your best possible rookies on the field. And I think you need to take advantage of that with your trades and think about how you can maximize points on field. Now, obviously, from a league perspective, again, he's just a cash cow. So, you're not going to want, you'd still probably play Max Gawn over Bruce. I don't think he's going to average 105 for the season. I mean, he's had 2 good games. But what do we say, guys? 90? You think 90 is achievable? 85, 90?
90, 95, probably.
Swizz? Yeah, 90? Yep. So,
90.
Yeah, I think that's about right. So, I wouldn't be wanting to lose that 15, 20, 30 points per game on a Grundy or a McGowan at any particular week. But, he's going to be much better than your F6 rookie. So that's why it's important. So, yeah, definitely. And from a league's perspective, definitely still run. You don't just trade out Grundy or Gawn from a league perspective to get Bruce. I think you can run him at R3.
I think they're very valid points, and I'd consider the same thing. If I'm going for overall, Bruce for me has to be on field. Now, slightly different to SC Elites, and Corey was banging the fuck on about how Bruce definitely has to be a must-in this week. If you're playing league, he can be an R3 because you don't need those wins per se.
You're just there for cash.
Yeah, you're there for cash, and he is definitely a really big money maker.
He'll make 200K.
If I was going for overall and I already had a sort of set and forget situation and I was bound to that, as in I didn't want to trade those out, then I wouldn't be bringing in Bruce. I would literally go Hayes as my R3 in a couple of weeks' time because of the extra. Not only that, it's also the extra money difference. You're talking about $80,000 difference, which can then get you a premium on field in your midfield or in your defensive line, and that's $80,000 you can actually put to use instead of having it sit there and do nothing.
I mean, I like both. And I think the best thing for me to happen at the moment was Hayes getting a 75 because I hope people really overlook him. He only had, I think, 5 or 6 disposals for the game. The rest of his points were all from hitouts to advantage. Like, the kid is seriously good. He's seriously, seriously good. And he will pop off for 110 or 120 sometime in the next few weeks. And if you don't have him, you're going to be regretting it. So even though he's obviously going to be at R3 for most people, that's why I was like, okay, well, I want Bruce R2. That way I can get Hayes at R3.
How much did you shit the bed when you found out Lysette was named?
No, honestly, I looked at it. I'm like, and then I saw Hayes in the extended bench, and I went, oh, okay. I immediately thought 100% laid out. That's what I thought when I saw that. But then when the report came out, I think it was the next day that they made the report that he'd had a fitness test that day. So that's why he was named, because he actually had a fitness test the following day, and they made the call, if you didn't pass the fitness test, we're going to have surgery. We're going to have to, and, because they're going to be playing finals this year.
The coach is still adamant too.
Oh, wheel. Sorry, but mate, what has happened to Port this year, hey? They look, obviously injuries to their best players don't help.
Are they their best players though?
I mean, Robbie Gray and Charlie Dixon, I'd say that they're pretty damn important players to their structure.
Ollie Wines.
Yeah. Ollie should be back this week, I think, but
playing Butters out of position.
There's rumours about he might not be, actually.
What was that?
There's actually a rumour about he could miss one more. They need him in because they're playing West Coast. Like, they can't drop this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, the condition he has is not really. It's just something that needs to be monitored. It's not necessarily something that's going to impact him long term. It can be solved with it can be managed with medication. So, there's every chance that he could come in. I wouldn't count against it for sure.
No, I believe it's just adjusting to. Obviously the high intensity of footy while taking the medication. They said he might just need another week.
Yeah. My partner has a similar issue with her heart as well. And she takes medication for it. And it does definitely knock her around, like when she's overexerting and stuff like that. So, definitely something to keep an eye on. But
good thing you don't.
She's not an elite AFL player.
Good thing you don't overexert her. Hey.
I love when he jokes. I mean, I'm more of a one and done sort of guy. Knock her up and then just leave.
One and done, just not with marriage, Chris?
No, it's always multiple and done.
Look, don't go breaking.
I take the shotgun approach to marriage.
Anyway, Rose's Swizzy now 130,000. I know it's about 7,000 more than I'd like to pay for a rookie, but based on He's a couple of performances already, break even of -71. What's he averaging? 73.5. So is it just literally from a point of view that there's a rookie there and we want to make some cash, and he literally just happens to be probably the only rookie to go for?
Well, that was the other one I was nearly going to bring in last week. So, as I said, sort of planning it out, I kind of wanted to have one more look at him where I knew I was just backing in Sam Hayes because I kind of more followed his track in his career the last 2-3 years. But the thing with Rowell coming in, his defensive pressure in the forward line is just so much better than what the other Gold Coast Smalls have been delivering, especially like Rankin.
Yeah.
Rankin's been a fucking letdown.
And he clears the ball quite well too. So like when he does have his, they tap to him too, and it doesn't hurt that Witch is the number one hit out to advantage ruckman in the comp right now. But
where's Grundy?
Honestly, but like he does receive the ball quite well, and I'm just surprised when you've got Took and Anderson and you've got Rowell in there, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll just tap it to Roses. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah. So, I liked he looked really good around the ball. He was willing to actually do like defensive stuff, which I know Stewie Dew will really like. Where some of those other ones when he was up around that forward line and he missed a couple opportunities. There was one goal he should have definitely kicked, but the week before he was nailing them and kicked the 3 straight. So he puts it on the scoreboard, runs both ways, and somebody I was really watching closely and I think he could be good between that 60 to 80 each week. So I'll be bringing him in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there is some other guys on the bubble as well. Probably don't need to go through them too much.
I don't think I would be.
Look, I think outside of those two, is there anyone else that you're seriously looking at, guys, or is it more just okay? Well, if you're going to take anyone, you've got to try and go for those guys.
I think it's literally those two players, or go a week early if you like a Hayes because his job security is so good. Hayes is 123k ruck, so obviously that's really beneficial. The only one outside of that, boys, is probably Ben Hobbs now. I don't really like his security per se. He got a 65, but literally Essendon are a fucking basket case right now. So he literally could get thrown into that midfield saying... Good. Yeah, but they could actually give him more midfield rotations because and just say to him, hey, you're not going to be playing 80% of the game. You're not going to be, you might play 65, 70%, but I need you to run both ways because no one else on that list is.
Do you want me to talk more about this, Benny Boy?
Go for it. You should.
Was there watching.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, because I was watching it, which I absolutely loved. My wife not so much, but fuck, I love watching Essendon buddy get smashed. But the thing with Hobbs, so early on was just trying to find his way and up around that half forward and pushing up. But in the last quarter, when the game was done, they moved him into the midfield, and he actually looked good. He actually started winning clearances when him and Caldwell were more around the ball. The Bombers looked better, and they had that little spurt there where I think they kicked 3 goals in about 3 minutes and started playing direct footy, and Hobbs was actually involved in some of those chains. So I think Rutten after the game was mentioning, they were asking about, do you lack a bit in the midfield, and said, we got Hobbs in there in the end. Probably needed to put him in there a bit early because that's what he is. He's a inside ball clearance machine. Not much of him. He's quite short in stature at the moment, but
he's got arms though, so who cares?
So
kids' arms.
But I think he's definitely got a role in there. The problem with the Bombers' makeup is their whole list is too many midfielders, and that's the problem. Like obviously Merritt's out at the moment. Stringer going to come back in. He's a really good impact player in that midfield. I heard
somewhere that Devon Smith was the best midfielder at that club.
Oh,
do you remember that?
SC Elites 2 years ago. Sorry, Swizz.
And so they've brought in Shield, they've brought in Caldwell, and this is the problem with a lot of the Bomber supporters getting frustrated because they've got a lot of guys who are quite similar in there, and their older guys aren't stepping up. Like Martin looks so much better. Well, the Bombers look better when they get the ball in Martin's hands and with his transition. So I think they'll definitely give Hobbs an opportunity. The problem is they're playing Anzac Day. It's the biggest, clash on the footy fixture. So there'll be a part of them go, no, we'll be conservative and go Parish and they're normal guys in there. But realistically, they should be giving Hobbs a lot more time. And I think if the Bombers were to lose, and especially lose badly on Anzac Day this week, you're more likely to see Hobbs in following weeks get more of an opportunity. But I feel like they'll be a bit more conservative this week. So hopefully Hobbs can sort of do similar get around that 60, 65 mark. And then if they do lose, then, possibly jump on.
The footage for Parrish this week was damning. He literally was going ahead.
He might get dropped.
He was literally going ahead of the contest trying to get a handball, and then once the team lost it, he was already overcommitted and then didn't even chase. It was so bad, and I like Parrish.
Well, they've got 3 guys for one position. They've got Darcy Parrish, they've got Jai Caldwell, and they've got Dylan Shield, who are all basically attacking midfielders.
And McGrath doing what's he doing?
Yeah. Well,
and that's the problem. Like, I actually feel for some of these Bomber supporters out there, because maybe it's a little delusional. They think they're better than what they actually are. But you've got Heppel, who's racking up the ball at half back, but putting no defensive pressure on at all. Didn't lay a tackle, didn't look like laying a tackle. As you said, Parrish should be in there tackling and that, and he got 2 tackles and really wasn't offering anything from the defensive side of the game as well. So, Hobbs comes in. What did he end up laying, 5 or 6 tackles? So, all of a sudden, his mentality was completely different to what the rest of the Bombers midfield is, and actually added something what they needed.
Hey, it's probably 2 more tackles than Tuke Miller fucking had this week. So,
look, in my opinion, if Hobbs comes, that's true. If Hobbs comes in and has a 60 next week, he's guaranteed to be in my side. So
153K though, boys.
Dude,
really?
The kid is gonna pop off.
Nah,
kid's good. And if he gets the role,
Ben, it's all to do with that result as well. If he goes in and gets 60 odd, and same stat line, if he goes 15 touches, 4 or 5 tackles, and if the Bombers lose, and especially if they were to lose bad again, what was it, 40, 50 points in the end against Freo, but they looked so bad in that second half. If they lose by more than 5, 6 goals to the Pies, and it's season done, they've got no choice but to get Hobbs as many games in there, because he's different to what the other midfielders are offering.
Okay, if the season's done, I guess that makes sense to blood some youth, but 153K, boys.
But he's that good. He's that good. I'm telling you, he's that good.
Ben, he was meant to go top 5 in the draft, and the biggest knock on him was
he wanted to go to
Essendon, inside midfielder. But so many clubs already have those inside midfielders, and I know Richmond were looking at him closely, but couldn't get past Stanley Gipkus. Because we needed him, but we couldn't say no to Gipkus, who was kind of top 3 all year in the draft. But Hobbs was the number 1 inside man. Obviously Horn-Francis will be the better player, but more that half forward goes into the forward and he'll develop as a better player. But if you think Hobbs, it's more that sort of Matt Crouch kind of type, where going to rack up the ball, going to lay some tackles, but he's just a competitive beast. So
I agree.
I think not the
he's gonna pop off as a Supercoach too, right?
Is that the formal term?
I think he will
pop off.
So the other guys on the bubble guys that you may be looking at, Kruger actually does look really, really good. I'll be honest.
Shit pick.
198K though, that's the problem, and but he does have a break even of -11. He was outstanding last week, so you must have hated him for that.
Shit pick.
And he's going to continue to be really good. In the forward line at the Pies, he's been playing really good.
Oh, hello? Yeah, shit pick.
No, I don't actually...
It's not a shit... It's not... Actually, I'll get on that. It's not a shit pick, because I think he's looked really good.
He's looked fantastic.
The problem is, Collingwood picking... What did they pick on the weekend? Grundy, Cox, Cameron, and Kruger in the
Dumbest
same friggin' team.
Cox looked lost out there.
Stupidest thing ever.
I love Mason Cox, but you can't play him, Cameron, Kruger in the same forward line and think that that's going to be a good situation. Like,
I don't know, boys. I feel really let down because I heard Kruger was playing and he's actually a lot more attractive than Freddie Kruger. So I don't know what to make of it, to be honest.
A good one. So Windhager's also got a... You're on it?
With you. I'll back you with that, because he's looked good around the ground. And you'd think McRae would stick with him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously Cameron went down injured, so that's an out. But if you're going between Cox and Kruger, I'm going Kruger every day of the week. The problem is, if he was 123, you'd take him. But at 198,
absolutely. I think at 123 he's almost a lock, because I think what does happen this week is, so obviously Myercheck will come back in, and then Cox will go straight back out. But I also think that they'll drop Cameron. So I think that it'll be Cameron and Cox out this week, because I think they went too tall and they know it. Yep. But they have McCreary and Ginnivan also coming back in, and whether both of those guys come back this week is a question mark at this stage. But I think both of those guys come in, and they go with that small pressure forward line that's made them so much, given them so much so far this season. So, so Kruger then will be the ruck that also takes the hit outs and then goes forward and kicks goals. So, He could be someone's going to jump on him and he's going to go all right this year. I'm not sure what he's going to average, but unfortunately, it's a week where you just got better options, and at 200K, not a lot of people are going to be jumping on. Windhager's 117K forward mid. He's got a break even -8. He didn't look too bad, but I just don't like his job security. So did you watch the Saints game there, Swizz?
I watched a little bit. I was at the in-laws for a barbecue, so I was watching the game on my phone. Hoping my in-laws aren't listening to this.
Classic.
But yeah, so I did. Did a couple good things and that, but I don't like the job security for starters because, Jones, Hunter Clark's not too far away. So I think they just get pushed out. But like him and Wanganeen Malira both have shown some good signs that they're going to be decent footballers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't be touching them.
Yeah. Same with Tom Wilson. He's also got a BE7 at 199K. I think he probably gets dropped this week as well. He's one on the cusp of getting dropped with the ins that are available for the Pies. And Flynn Perez.
So decent one. I think with Hall being down, I think Flynn Perez already showed a little bit. Didn't set the water like break even at 12, right? But had a 41 this week. It was a little bit shit the week before, so I think 32, but showed a little bit. So I think with Zeeble going forward, he kind of came in and showed a little bit, right? Now, with Hall going out, it is an option. I don't like his price, but he is definitely someone that could be an option.
The one thing that I'll say, and Swizz, you obviously watched the North game as well, so I'll cut to you on this, but I've noticed the last 3 weeks, right? And I'm not sure what's changed. Maybe Noble just learned how to coach a little bit better. But in the first few weeks, North were the North of last year. They were chipping the ball around the back line, going switch, back to Zeeble, back to Hall, back to Zeeble, over to McDonald, back to Hall, and outlet, right?
And they lost by less.
And the last couple of weeks, they've been going more direct. They've been having less of those kicks just to uncontested marks in the back line. And I noticed that first of all, I noticed that because Hall wasn't scoring as good. But second, I noticed that Perez, I thought he was in good spots last week, but they just weren't getting the ball to him. So whether that's because that was Zeeble moving forward and he was demanding the ball so much in that back line that now they're not playing that game style, or whether that's because they're actually instructed to move the ball quicker out of defense. Either way, North's defenders aren't scoring as well as they were 3 weeks ago. And I think that's one thing to take into consideration with someone like McDonald if you're getting on him this week. And
it showed, mate. It showed the last two, because after they got trounced by Brisbane, they're sort of what do you call it, momentum in footy, where you just pile on some different like goals in a row and that, and they had that a couple times against the Swans, and then against the Dogs, I think they kicked 5 in a row, and that was just playing direct footy. The problem is with young teams like that, you're going to get scored against, so you've got to be willing to take the big loss. And I know the commentators would, because they've got to sit there, it's a job for them, so they're hating it because they don't want to see blowouts and people turning off. But when it was working for North, it looks really good, and they've got some attacking play. The bad thing from a fantasy point of view is, those defenders aren't scoring because it isn't slow and chip footy. It's actually a bit more exciting to watch. And the unfortunate thing, when you lose like that and you're not getting the ball because you're not holding on to it, you're not getting the Supercoach points. Like the Bulldogs nearly got that magical 2,000 team point, on the weekend, because the Dogs are just holding onto the ball, pitting up their targets, playing that way. When North get it was kind of, run and gun, get it down to their forwards, try to get on a one-on-one situation. And they've got some good forwards down there, but unfortunately that's not good, because I heard some good raps from a North mate about Perez. Like they really like him back in that side. Once he was available, they put him straight back in there. And if they were sort of playing that slow game, I'd be saying, well, actually, maybe have another look at him. But unfortunately, and the other thing we haven't thought about is Geelong have just lost to their number one rival in Hawthorn. North are playing Geelong this week. I've got shades of 2007 when Richmond got slaughtered by 157 points to the Cats on the rebound. I feel like I'm going to be there in Tassie watching North Melbourne in an absolute bloodbath this week. So
where was it? It was down at Cardinia Park where Geelong put that 230 something on Melbourne or something, didn't they? That was
so that was a bit afterwards. Where I was the one I'm talking about. Geelong lost to North Melbourne, went 2-3 the year 2007 before their first flag, and then they played us at Marvel the week after, and yeah, they put 100. I think it might have been Tommy Hawkins' first game. They put 157 points on us.
Wow.
It was just they've got the ability. I don't think they're going to do as much this week, but I think it's going to be an absolute smacking. So it could be the same again when North Melbourne only score sort of 1,400 Supercoach points.
And that's
Yeah.
the big issue, though, is that them not having a big slice of the pie really kills the cash development. So when you look at a Horn-Francis, do you know what I mean? If they're getting flogged, it's harder for him to score well. And I think even when they played Brisbane, it was, like when you looked at the scores,
Because
not many North players actually did well.
Because what we know is he's an impact player.
Yeah.
If he's making an impact in the fourth quarter, yet they've already been
Huge points.
10 goals down.
Oh,
Who gives a shit about that goal that he kicks and like in the halfway through the fourth when they're down 10 goals?
That's where Rochelle did well, kicking a couple of goals, put them ahead. All of a sudden, he went from like 20 points up towards 50. Started to try and impact. Huge.
Yeah, exactly.
Now the last two.
And you look.
Sorry, you go.
You compare Rowell and Horn-Francis's stat line from the last 3 weeks, and they mirror each other. And that's Horn-Francis, as you said, compared to say a Rochelle, just not going to pick up those points, and it'll be the same this week. Like I can see Geelong putting 10 to 15 goals on North Melbourne, and I really hope it's a bit closer. As I said, I'm going down for that match, so. But I feel like it's going to be the complete opposite. Geelong are going to have to come out and win. They'll be hurting from the Easter Monday match. And then Horn-Francis, he's going to do some nice things. He's going to get his 18 touches. He'll get his 3 or 4 tackles, probably kick a goal. But it makes no difference when your team scores 1,400. And the one player that can score from North is Cherry, because it's a different situation. It's the rucks who, we say every week, if they walk on the field, they get 80 points. So, the rest of the North players, they'll get the game style they're implementing, they're not going to score. Except for Grundy.
Fucking
So
Grundy.
the last thing I'll touch on with the Rooks. So we've got 2 to look out for next week again. So Lohman, who's your boy, and I'll get him to get you to go on. He started for Lions last week, break even of 4. He scored 44 points. The one to watch though is Finn Callaghan, who actually looked really good with what he did, but unfortunately only scored a 48. And he's 198k with a break even now currently of 31. So he would have to come out and really smash it. And there's 2 problems with that. First of all, he plays for GWS. Second of all, obviously he's 198k. So job security, very questionable. We've got Toby Green comes back this week. Is that straight out for Finn Callaghan? Does he get the one and done, or do we trust Leon Cameron there? I mean, obviously hugely touted. He looked really good. He made good decisions with the ball in hand. Didn't look out of place at all. Just didn't get enough of it. Doesn't have the role really right now at that price to warrant a selection. But what did you guys see on the weekend?
Yeah, Timmy Taranto version 2.0 of Callahan.
But he can kick.
Get up forward. Big guy. He'll take a mark, but he'll rack up the ball when he finally gets the opportunity in the midfield. Problem is GWS have that many midfielders. So you're right in everything you say there, Chris. Toby Green's going to come in. He could be sub. He might still get another game, but I just hate his job security, and he'd have to be 102k for me to even want to go near him just because of that reason.
Yeah, I agree. Keeper league and only a keeper league, boys. Chris,
Cool.
What's the other one? Is that it?
That's it. Oh, the only other one was Max Lynch, which obviously I went through a little bit. Oh, Kai Lohman. I mean, he looked all right. I didn't think he looked terrible.
I thought he looked good. Good pressure. Didn't quite get the goals, and a couple times he got into real good spots and didn't get used. So as in, he was kind of pushing to the fat side of the field to become an option, and then they kind of kicked it to the square. Really good pressure. I think maybe even gave away a free for an unrealistic specky. But he looks pretty good. But again, it's a small forward kind of role. So he was keeping Cockatoo out because I don't think they were happy with enough of the pressure that Cockatoo was bringing. So realistically, his job security is quite questionable. Even to this point, they're looking at bringing in Coleman. Was it Kitty Coleman?
Kitty Coleman, yeah.
But they're like, how does he fit into the side? So he was best 22 and he is best 22, but who makes room? So it's a really jam-packed side at the moment, and because they are...
Still haven't seen Eli Smith, or I think he's out with partying with Will Gould on the weekend at this point.
Oh, those two would have a fucking great night out.
Yeah, they would.
Oh, they are like the Invincibles. They're like, hey, no one knows who we are, but they know who we are. Like we exist, but we don't exist. What a fucking great party.
I am the shadows.
I think Brisbane only has one injury at the moment.
Yeah, not many.
Just crazy.
Is it was it Hipwood? That's about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and when you look at Kai as well, there's so many other forwards or pressure forwards, but I liked the dynamic that he brought. Do you know what I mean? So he actually brought energy, which is kind of like what I saw it as a Richmond-esque kind of pressure forward that was almost like hyperactive and was go, 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 go. And Charlie was a bit flat. Do you know what I mean? Because Charlie's like, hey, I'm Charlie. I can do what I like. I'm Charlie, and just put it near a goal. Whereas this kid was just manic, just absolutely bull, just hounding, pressure. And when there's an opportunity, he's like, fuck it, I'll go for a specky or I'll go for a snap. And he just looked like he kind of belonged. But security-wise, though, there's no way I'm picking him at this point. There's just so many people that I could automatically, in my mind, replace for him.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I mean, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on him. And I mean,
if he goes well this week.
Yeah, I mean, his price also is attractive. Let's be honest, 121k. We're not getting many of those guys at the moment.
Yep, better than his mullet.
Well, there is one and he hasn't played yet, but Greg Clark had 18 touches in his first game through the Waffle.
Yep.
So
he watching that,
going to start the season if he was fit. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in and plays next week.
And
which might be great timing.
I agree. And Donut watch, guys. Donut's on my field right now. So Mitch Owens had 26 in the VFL, and Kane Baldwin had 6 goals.
See, Baldwin will probably
well.
he'd get a game though. Owens though, but you've also got Zach Jones probably coming back in this week. So I think he gets into that side before Owens does. So I think he's still Owens 1 for the games played.
Yeah.
And for me,
Great loophole.
Clark, I would actually, if I needed cash to make an upgrade and Clark was named, I would even kind of take him as my possible loophole. If I don't have a loophole, which I don't, because I didn't pick shit players to start with, Chris. But as in Clark, at least, it's if I needed some cash and there was no real rookies, say next week or the week after, I think Clark might play this week or next week because they just said, hey, we don't want to kind of throw him to the wolves, so we'll give him a bit of waffle. And for me, he is him and Holman, but at least Clark, is kind of on that brink. And West Coast are literally West Coast. So I think he's definitely someone that I could bring in as a loophole option as someone who should play in the next week or two if I need.
Fair enough. And yeah, Max Lynch, we already touched on him earlier, but obviously keep an eye on him.
I'm watching him. I reckon he has as the only ruck again, 200,000. I think that's bargain price. But he's no Bruce though. He's a Collingwood reject.
You've got 2 weeks. All right,
he's a Collingwood reject.
Yeah, well, no, he's not. I mean, we signed Grundy to a freaking
7-year
deal.
7 years. Far
he
out.
lasted 3 weeks in my team.
I suppose that sort of rounds out the rook. So we move on to trade in and trade out targets, guys. And we're going to go through DPPs first.
Yeah, let's talk about DPPs now. DPP, ladies and gentlemen, stands for dual position penis. DPP.
I knew he was going to go somewhere with that, and I was like, "Where's he going?"
We're waiting for it.
Dual position. Dual player.
I don't want one position. I want all positions.
dual player position. Now, dual player positions. So when we have a bit of a look now, obviously on the YouTube, this is a real squint eye view, but the only real relevant one. So we'll go through rookies is great. Because, your Martin can go into your midfield and that's great. McDonald, you can bugger him off to the forward line because he's going to go out of your side any second anyway.
That's true.
Dacos to defense, awesome. I'm a little bit upset Hinge didn't get that DPP because I would have loved to have put him on the bench in the midfield. But when we have a look through, now defensive line, the big two for me, Zorko, my man Zork, and Pendlebury, right? 2. Forward line, Lipinski, and probably our man Parker. Now, as far as relevancy, boys, Luke McDonald relevant, probably more draft relevant, but still relevant, I say. Now, is there anything outside of that as far as possible top 10 players in their position at the moment?
Yeah, look, and it's going to depend on if there's an injury at the Dogs, but Tom Liberatore... he's one injury away from averaging 100 in the forward line easily. So
fair.
Keep an eye on him. But I mean, God, we're unlucky with Bailey Bailey Smith, right? Like he's averaging the most disposals per game in the AFL right now, and he was this close to getting forward status, and if he did, he would have been an absolute lock in the forward line. So we're unlucky there, but yeah, I do think that you're very right in what you said. I don't know about Zorko though. Is he injured? Like what's?
Yeah, he is.
Like he can't pick.
Was it plantar fascia? He ripped some scar tissue, so he's running around he's running around like I would be. Old man Ben hobbling around the fucking field. But what I did notice, and sorry Swizz, we'll pass you in a sec. He was the seagull of Brisbane. He was literally, so you had Rich kind of hitting on the left, like, hey, give me the ball. But Zorko's like, I'm your fucking captain, give me the ball. And he was hitting the right, and he was Lockie Huntering fucking everything. He was literally like, give me the ball. And Zorko would just get it. And he got so many disposals against Collingwood, literally seagulling. I don't think he earned a single fucking possession. And he just goes, hey, give me the ball. Hey, give me the ball. Hey, give me the ball. I'm running past your right hip. Give me the ball. And that's literally it. So, Swizz, I'll pass you there. And the other one I want to follow up with, Swizz, is Lockie Hunter now taking indefinite leave. Fuck everyone, commentators and reporters giving him a hard time earlier in the year. But who takes that wing role now? They're the two things I want to know, Swizz. Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, the worry always for that is it McRae that pushes out more, and is it then Libba spends more time in the midfield? That's the perfect scenario for us. Or is it because they've got that many half-backs, and with Bailey Williams and Crozier, Caleb Daniel, does Ed Richards come back up and play more of that wing role? So for me, I wouldn't mind that Ed Richards one because I've got him in a few draft leagues. But even McRae on the outside can easily find the ball, and they might sort of let him spend a little bit more time on the outside and just get Libba and Treloar more into that midfield. Even Bont spent an incredible amount of time up in the forward line.
And Bailey Smith had a lot of CBAs too, so even Bailey Smith could then go from inside to outside, Bont into the middle.
It's a spoil of riches, right?
So spoiled.
It is. It is. And with I was talking to you boys about it before, like even Bailey Smith as an option at the moment, I would have loved him to pick up that forward status, but just as a mid option, he's finding the ball at ease, and the Dogs have such a soft draw. So yeah, Libba is definitely the number one target on all of them, depending on how they roll and how the Dogs sort of set up, because they've got some really soft games coming up. Obviously, it started last week with North Melbourne, and it'll just keep going from there. I think it's the Crows up in Ballarat this week, which they just love. Cold conditions, and they'll, I'm sure Libba will be in his element up there. But I think outside of that, there's not too many others. There's just probably a couple more. We've sort of helped with McDonald and Mead. Those guys, if you didn't want to move on straight away, they do open up some loophole options for you. But as in premiums, it's just Pendles and Zorko, and then Lipinski. The Pies don't have a bad draw coming up, so it is one to monitor. But I still think we're sort of blessed with the forward options we've got at the moment. A lot of people are running English, Dunkley, Butters, Heaney as it is. And you've still got Taranto and DeGoey, those sort of guys, and then Cherry, Cornelio, Brody. So I don't think I'll be looking at both. I won't be looking at Lipinski. Parker does interest me, but he did have that game where he scored, 29 or something?
Well, he had like 3 shit games. It was like a 50-50 and a 30, and then he's had a good first round where he kicked a bag of 5, and then this round as well. But Parker generally finishes strong, so it's one of those real weird...
Well, Parker's always been an inconsistent scorer, and
but not that low. His base has never been
no. But he's usually 71-40, 71-40. Like he's, and that's kind of been his scoring pattern. But one thing I'll say in Parker's defense, which is why I'm heavily looking at him, is I think it's strongly linked to Papley. So he's been playing a lot more forward time, which is why he's actually got the forward status, and large parts because Papley's not there, and they needed a marking forward. So Isaac Heaney obviously is that more taller forward option. He plays that half forward. He's hitting the logos. Parker plays that deep forward as a Papley option, and that lead up from the square. So I am looking at that as going, okay, well, what exactly are we going to be? What's going to happen when Pappy returns? We've also got Franklin that comes back in 2 weeks. So we've got 2 forwards that are guaranteed to be into that forward line the next couple of weeks. And I think Parker becomes almost he'll never be a 100% CBA midfielder. He'll never be that because he offers too much forward, just like Isaac Heaney. Like he's never going to be a full-time midfielder just accept it and move on. But I think his mid-time goes up enough where he raises that floor back to that sort of 70 to 80, and then his ceiling goes through the roof again. And we've seen what Parker is like when he has those huge games. You want to be on him. So, yeah, I actually really do like Parker. But I've got 2 questions for you guys. The first question is, how many forwards do you really need this year? And the second question is, of those, how are you getting Parker into your team?
Swizz, I'm gonna take this one off. Now, Chris, I love you sometimes. Now, I'm sitting there going, Parker, I love Parker, and I think he's a fucking genius, and I think he's so underrated, and I love Parker, and I was like, man, I really want to get Parker in, but those scores are horrible. And then you come and bring logic to this argument. And I'm sitting there kind of like, when it's this, I'm like, yeah, I love Parker, but I'm kind of shaking my head going, man, I can't, he's had some bad scores. And then you're sitting there going, oh, Papley. And I'm like, hey, yeah. So I start, I'm nodding along going, yeah, Papley. Okay, well, Papley, that kind of makes sense to me now. And it's really shitting me because you have brought so much logic where I'm like, that makes way too much sense.
Yeah.
Now,
you, I guess.
No. I think you're right. I do like, and the fact he's already dropped like 100,000. I mean, if you're getting
480K for right now, Parker,
getting him for that, or even a week from now for 460 or whatever he's, Bryce Mitchell shout out, whatever he might get to. I think it's literally him and Duncan. Now, apart from Duncan being in a shit team playing at defense or whatever he's playing at the moment, Parker. It usually finishes strong. If he gets that midfield rotation, I think it's definitely valuable. Now, the issue is that forward line. Now, when we look at meanwhile, I wish Lipinski was actually named forward mid when we started this year because that would have solved so many fucking problems.
Who's F6? Who are you bringing in?
It's hard though, right? Because people have we were waiting, going, maybe Bontempelli, maybe all these other options, and bloody
You're not trading out of Brody if he's going to average 100 for the year, right?
Brody's not averaging 100.
But while he's still scoring, you're not trading him, right?
No, not now.
Well, you can hold him then. He's going to be 450, 500K when you trade him.
English, Duncan.
Is your F6 Cherry?
Right now, my F6.
Mine is.
My F6 this week is I've got emergency on Rochelle looping with Roses this week. But only because I've got Nick Martin in midfield and I've got Brody in midfield. So
yeah, that actually,
and I've got English in the ruck.
Me when I bring Roses in.
Duncan, English, Cornelio.
Duncan?
Dunkley.
Yeah.
Same shit.
Dunkley, English, Cornelio. Most people have Brody.
Heaney's probably around the mark, yeah.
Well, Heaney will be there, obviously. Yeah. But, I mean, there's a splattering of forwards, right?
There's a lot.
And the guys that you've got that are averaging, say, right now, 90 to 100, aren't that far off guys that are averaging like 105 or 108. Like, it's not worth trading into these guys, right?
Not Parker yet, anyway, with the up and downs.
So, identifying where your weakness is, and a lot of the midfields, we've had a chat about the midfield being the weakest on-field rookies.
And also the midfield being the time now where they're dropping in price. Right. Tuke Miller dropping. Right, Tuke Miller's about to go fucking ham with tackles and all sorts of shit because I think he's too proud, right? And against Brisbane, of all people. Clary, track. You've got Green, who's obviously underpriced for what he looks like he's going to be bringing. Brody Smith. Is it Brody Smith?
Bailey Smith. All the B Smiths. Fucking too many B Smiths, boys. But the thing is, though, that the forwards are cheap, right? So Lipinski's only 424K right now.
For a guy averaging 99.
Yeah, he's the fourth or what is he? The fifth averaging forward right now,
cheap.
Lipinski?
So cheap.
And then you've got Parker, obviously, that's only 480. And, I mean, I think Parker's probably... So what does they average from now to the rest of the year? And I think that Parker potentially averages, for 480K... 105 plus. Like, I think that's a realistic achievement.
It depends on his role. I think 100 plus, yeah. If he gets more mid...
105 plus.
Swizz?
Come on, Swizz.
Yeah, I'll go 100 because I don't know how they're going to set up. They had Kennedy as the sub the other day.
I know, but he's done. But surely he's cooked.
Kennedy's done.
He's played half back most of the year anyway. He's cooked.
Done, but they've just got that many sort of players. They're still trying to Rowbottom and Florent and Goulden and rotate through that. So I think Parker's going to still have a couple of really bad games, and then other games he's going to be in. So I'll just go a flat 100.
Swizz, if Kennedy was a horse, he'd be shot.
He's a good-looking horse.
Hey, that's a Kennedy joke.
Probably is a horse.
That's a Kennedy joke, no?
But you're right, Lipinski. So Lipinski's 5th overall for points scored. Another thing, because you got to take out the sort of Tex and Dusty and who have only played like the 1 or 2 games. But
Yeah.
Lipinski is 437 at the moment. He's got break even of 78 playing the Bombers. The problem is, I just don't need him.
Nah, exactly. I don't even need Heaney. Like, I'm okay with his fucking fourth quarter bullshit scores because I don't really need Heaney. Like, I just don't. Like, I've got a rookie on field that's averaging 87 in Nick Martin. I'm okay with that.
So you don't need 122.4 averaging forward?
He's not. Well, since he didn't do that at the first 2 rounds, I didn't have him, and I've only been able to trade into him since, and he hasn't been averaging that since round 3. So I don't care. What's he averaged since round 3? Like maybe
110.
110 or something?
110.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Like, I'm not really fussed. I'm not phased. It's great.
But
Don't
I know
get me
what
wrong.
you mean.
But is it must have? Is he blowing you out of the water with 130 average? He's not. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, they are playing. They're still going to play the Hawks, Suns, and Bombers in the next 3 out of the 4 weeks. So, yeah, he could still do that.
Oh, maybe. I mean, this week he'll still be playing. Like, he's lucky to score 112 this week. I mean, he's still going to be playing a large amount forward with Franklin out. So I'm not. Again, I don't need Heaney right now. Like, he'll drop again.
Hawks have a lot of intercepts.
I guarantee. I'll bet anyone any money that Heaney drops to below 500k again this year sometime.
Well, of course, he's only 539k. If he's not going to drop, if he's not going to drop 39k,
I'll pick him up when I feel like picking him up. He's never a must-have. Heaney is never a must-have.
Hey, excuse me, I'm still waiting on you to go with the bloody Brody bet that you have. You've had a week to think on now.
Yeah, and he's still going well, mate.
T-Rance.
I got to wait for Fife to come back, man. I told you.
Every week you wait hurts his average, you dickhead.
Well, actually, what happened this week? So who was it? It
93.
was Brody versus who?
Taranto.
And Taranto only got like 80 something.
Yeah, so
I
you
think
would have.
I'm actually up right
You
now.
would have been up if
What
you
was
were actually
Taranto's
smart.
score this week?
I don't know.
92.
92.
Oh,
Similar.
so he's 2 points up. Pay him out early.
You didn't even take the bet. Meanwhile, Fremantle only need one more win for a parlay, so I'm fucking happy there. You must be shitting bricks.
Now, guys, let's move on to trading out targets, guys. Oh wait, no, we didn't. We haven't even gone to trade in targets yet.
Excuse me. Heaney's only 539k, so I still see value there. He's cheaper than many other midfielders, and again, Swizz already spoke about having the 3 cheap games coming up ahead as well. English is now starting to get priced out a little bit. He's 572k. He's already gone up 90,000. So, do you think 570 is probably a bit too much, boys, for a forward?
Yep. Needed to jump on last week. Was the last week to get him.
Yeah, because even now he's more expensive. He's $20,000 more expensive than Grundy at this point.
I'd still trade Grundy to English.
For 20 grand, yeah, maybe. Averaging 121. Love it. Taranto, 542k. So these kind of guys, I'm just looking at forwards at this moment, boys. There's not too much there. Like Jordan De Goey's 480. Lipinski's probably the value pick at 437k now, just because he is so cheap, averaging you, 99.6, 93 over the last sort of 6. So it's one of those ones where if you didn't get Lipinski early and you're actually pretty keen on it for leagues, that kind of thing as well, I think he's still a decent enough price point to put in there. Midfield role obviously is quite heavy in that as well.
And their draw too, Benny Boy, it really opens up. Their next 3 are Essendon, Gold Coast, Richmond. So
For
points there. And then even coming in, it's after the bye. They've got the Suns, North, Adelaide, Essendon, Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I quite like that. Especially,
yeah, he could. It's not a bad one actually to think about.
Yeah, it's an awkward price.
Happily have him in your midfield for now.
Awkward price for standard. If you had him already, and he is fairly owned. I think, what is he? He's in 8% of teams. So if you have him, you're laughing, you're throwing him in your forward line. I think as a forward, he definitely provides a value. Now, again, awkward price, 437k, but I could definitely think of worse things to have in my forward line than Lipinski. And I'm not even a Collingwood fan, but I think with a weaker opposition, he has the ability to, on his day, tail up and go really well, but just know that his base is probably around the 80 mark and his ceiling is around that 130, depending on how his week goes. More leagues for me, but anyway,
I wouldn't, again, I think he runs into the same problem as everything else right now. Like, why would you spend money on a forward? Like that's where it comes down to at the end of the day. Like, investing your money right now in the forward line is not the best way to do it because you've got on-field rookie scorers that are killing the guys in midfield. So put your money into the midfield.
The only thing I could say to that, Chris, about Lipinski, just because of his price and his low break even, and the fixture coming up, you could still play him on midfield in the midfield
That's
and average
true.
100, 105.
Yeah.
And when sort of Cherry maxes out or somebody like that, you can then move Lipinski up there.
Yeah, same thing with Parker.
Lipinski
Essentially,
can be top 6.
Yeah. Well, I think that
Oh,
I don't know. Okay, so well, you would then rate him above Parker then.
I think Lipinski's got the better role than Parker.
Right now he does. I suppose
Yeah.
we're foreshadowing,
But
right?
how many weeks? And that could still go on for a few weeks. Like,
Well, there was a
Sydney
report
will-
today saying that Papley is trained fully for the first time this season, and that they'll assess on Friday whether they play him in the AFL or VFL.
interesting.
yeah, but do you trust those Sydney forwards? Reed, Buddy, Logan McDonald's still young, that they might not.
I don't think
like,
the big
they
guys
might not
really
have to get
impact
up each
Parker
week.
like that.
Can we at least agree
Yeah,
that
but
we
I
trust
think
Sydney?
it depends on Sydney's setup.
That's true.
Can we at least trust that we trust Sydney more than GWS? Is that fair?
And
Oh,
there's also
absolutely.
Sydney have about 73 talls, so they can really do whatever they want. Though, having said
But
that,
they've
I
got
think there was a big
73
injury.
midfielders as well.
Amati went down with an injury in the VFL, I believe, as well this week. So that's another one. I think it's a fairly serious injury, so he won't be coming in anytime soon. So that's one to keep an eye on. So that will obviously impact Heaney if they are looking at bringing him in. He's obviously going to, for any tall injury, Heaney's going to be staying in the forward line, essentially.
Boys, can we talk trade outs now? So we'll just go by position. Now, number one, we're pretty much going to go. I think Ridley is now 503K. He's dropped about 35,000, only averaging 88.2. So he's one. Now, the other one is, and it has to be, right now, my boy
Whitfield?
fucking Whitfield. Now, Whitfield is literally a shadow of a fucking man. Had plenty of pill, turned it over, not looking Whitfield-like. And then, here's how dysfunctional GWS are.
Should we get a soundbite from last week's pod where I said Leon Cameron said that he's has ankle and knee issues?
No, it's not even that. It's not even that. He literally is just butchering the ball. He's
so
not.
his ankle has nothing to do with his kicking ability.
No, he's shit.
Can we get the soundbite from when I went with the footy with Grimo in round 2 and said Whitfield his legs are shot? Can we just replay that?
Let's do that.
Okay, well, Whitfield has only dropped 40,000, so thank you. It's not too bad right now.
He's still getting the ball, mate. That's not the problem.
He's still getting it. He
No,
just can't do anything with
He's
it.
a magnet.
And
He can't kick the ball
which is unlike Whitfield right now. Here's the other scenario.
because he's injured.
He's
I think he's
I don't think he's that
I don't
injured.
think, wait, tell him against this because I don't think he actually heard you from Melbourne.
He's injured, mate. I was at the game in round 2. I watched him hobble around. He can't run.
Hobble.
They call him Aaron Hall, but he hasn't done a hammy yet. He
And-
needs
But
to
he's just
learn
so
the long
good.
to a
He's still
contest.
they look for him. They find the ball. He goes and tries to do what he normally does and run and kick the ball, but he kicks it 5 meters to an opposition player.
He needs to do that the Jack Crisp and just run long kick to a contest, and then it doesn't matter, right?
the Jack Crisp, you mean back up 130s to go 104 average or something?
Yeah, let's go.
What he needs to do is do the Aaron Hall and just fall down and be like, "Yeah, I'm done, boys. Like I'm seriously done."
I couldn't have been more direct with you, fucking Ben. I could not have been more direct.
He does the Aaron
Leon
Hall.
Cameron has never ever said that one of his players is suffering from an injury in the middle of a season. He's never done it ever. And he finally does it. I'm like, it's a big red flag, Ben. It's the biggest red flag that you've ever seen a red flag.
His break even was okay. Now his break even is 103. I have to get rid of him.
And the
Wasn't he
credit,
like 20 at
credit
half time
to
last
him.
week?
He was, and the last 3
Credit
weeks he's
to him.
been
He's
20
like-
at halftime.
He played Melbourne and still got it 25 times. That's how good he is.
He was
Like, he's
third
on
for
one
DT.
leg. He's
He
getting
was
25 times.
he was third for DT and like something like 20th overall. It was fucking horrible. Now here's the other thing: they're turning on each other. GWS, right? So they are. The
I
Whitfield,
feel like it's making a mark all over again.
they're turning on each other.
No, go. Go, Ben. I want to hear this conspiracy theory.
No. They're turning on each other. This is backing up why I'm trading Whitfield this week, boys.
is great.
Now, I'll tell you
Did you email
why.
Leon Cameron?
I didn't have
You
to.
should have
I
emailed
didn't
Leon
have
Cameron
to.
last week.
Look, Leo Cameron says, "Hi, thanks
Can
for
we
your
get
email.
Leon
I'm out
Cameron
of
on
a
the
job
show?"
for the next 8 months. Please, please respond."
I've heard somewhere that Leon Cameron does not give a fuck about Supercoach.
He does not. Now, no, they're turning on each other, boys. Now, bear with me. Stay with me. Right? Whitfield was literally trying to go for a cheap kick out of all the cheap kicks he got all day. right? He was literally leading sideways from the middle of the field across to someone like, hey, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. And then threw his hands up and cracked the shits at a teammate that didn't want to chip it 20 meters infield, right? They are turning on each other and they are so lost for an identity right now. Whitfield is literally beyond help. He's copped so much criticism that I'd actually like to keep him.
Do you know that they actually did that though? Like I remember when you do that. 5 minutes earlier, they tried to do the exact same thing, and there was 2 Melbourne players just came and like sabotaged him right at the top of the 50-meter arc, and he's like, "Well, yeah, okay, well, that's of course it's going to happen. I finally get the ball, and there's 2 guys that just come in and sandwich him."
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I was like, man, what a big dilemma. I've got 4 people with the round 12 bye. Who am I going? Oh, hang on, I've got Whitfield. He could just become someone else. So look, it's one of those ones for me. Trade out. I think Whitfield. If you're with me and you've held this long, fucking trade the guy. Fuck every GWS player. And that's why I'm probably not going to get Tom Green, because GWS suck the life out of everything that is fun. Swizz.
And you mentioned Ridley. Ridley.
Yes, please
because the problem is it's him not taking the kickouts. So we were talking about that at the end of last year when Redmond, and they sort of divide between the different players.
Even Heppel had
some. Heppel and then McGrath, those guys are the ones that take the ball especially Heppel, from the back pocket, half back. And then, they've got other options out there. So they're not, even Martin's come up the ground and been the link guy. So Wrigley, apart from the intercept marking, has had to play more as a normal defensive player. And that he's not there as the normal, okay, we need Ridley to kick the ball out of defence. Maybe they should go back to Ridley kicking the ball out of defence, because they look a lot better when he does it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're saying hold or get rid of, because he's averaging pretty poor.
Oh,
his role was done. His role was done last year.
His
role was done last year. If you still have Ridley, you need to get off him. So,
okay.
I suppose Rowell, guys. Rowell's a big one.
Oh, yes. Matty Rowell.
I think, I'm getting rid of Matty Rowell. Now, the reason is more break even. I actually think if you can hold him, because I think there's another big score in there before the buys that's going to restart his cash gen and get him back up to potentially 450, maybe even 500K. But the way that he's being used is not good. Not good for Supercoach scoring. He's a rolled gold midfielder who should be just literally let loose to do whatever the hell he wants. Hunt the ball. Hunt the damn ball. Get those contested possessions that you are literally known for. That's the entire reason why Matt Rowell is Matt Rowell.
Yeah, get the ball before they get the ball, not follow someone else and watch them pick it up and then go, oh, I'll tackle you now.
Now, I'm not sure if it's because he potentially could be hiding an injury as well. So that could be a thing where he's now playing a more defensive role because he doesn't have the physical capabilities to go and do what he needs to do. He copped those 2 huge hits in what I think was round 3 and round 4. Some big hits. And so but that potentially could be why he's actually gone back and regressed a little bit. Now, that would just be time, but he's probably not injured enough to not play.
Like they've changed their style the last 2 weeks where they've gone, Rowell, you're going to tackle.
Yeah.
Touk, you're going to get the ball.
Yeah.
Where Touk just normal, he tackles first.
He's 2-way,
gets the ball second.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's like, okay, Touk, you're going to be one way, and Rowell, you're going to be one way. And together, you're going to kind of make a two-way sort of thing, and it's just weird.
I think the adjustment will come though, because it hasn't worked out.
Oh, it will at some point.
I think it hasn't worked out for him. Now, here's the benefit.
Adjustment will come when Stuart Dew gets fired.
No, he ain't getting fired. Now, here's the thing. So Brisbane, this will be a big game for them because it's a big rivalry. So I think all the players will lift, particularly in that midfield. So I think the Suns midfield will lift. Collingwood have a pretty, I don't want to say weak, but inexperienced, like a newer, developed midfield. Sydney have a young midfield, right? Fremantle have a young midfield. Dogs have a great midfield. But then you've got Hawks, North, Adelaide, Port, and then back to Collingwood. Now, North is round 12, just before their bye, right? So I'm kind of, if I can, now I'm not saying that I'm definitely holding Rowell. I'm saying that he has such a high ceiling that his break even doesn't bother me, because I know round one...
It's only 100, right?
Well, round one, he was best on ground. So he can perform and have a high ceiling, and I'd rather get these other players off my field if I can. I'm not as concerned because of his high ceiling, and all I need is for him to go one big game again, and all of a sudden, bang, he's made that money in interest, right? And again, Hawks, North, Adelaide over that bye period. I would love having Rowell in round 12 and round 14 versus North and Adelaide versus...
Look, I think
If I can.
there's definitely points to hold. I also concede that there's points to trade. So,
Or if you can get him to, if he's your only outlet to get to an Oliver, then you're kind of like, well fuck, Oliver.
say for me, for my team, right? I lost $100,000 from going to a barbecue. So I need cash.
You lost $100,000 because you're a dickhead.
Yes, exactly right. So that's put me in a position where I need to go early on guys like this to be able to get some bank so that I can get some premium midfielders in my team. So guys that are dropping cash like Track, Oliver, getting a guy like Parker, etc. Like that's my next 3 weeks. The only way I can really do that is by downgrading someone like a Matthew Rowell, 2 or Roses. There's 370K right there, and it enables me to go up. Yeah, sorry, 270.
270.
Yeah. So this week with my trades, I'm actually boosting to get Matt Rowell out of my team so that I can next week grab Oliver or Parker or one of those other guys and continue my upgrade path over the next 3 weeks that I'm grabbing a new one every single week. You're going to need a little bit of bank to be able to do that. So that's what I'm looking at this week. Now, obviously, I can wait, but I mean, if he goes another 60, well, there's another 20K lost. That could be the difference between getting an Oliver and not getting him. So that's why I'm looking at getting rid of him from my team, but I can understand why you would hold. And I'm actually recommending holding. For most teams, I think that you should probably hold.
Chris is getting triggered by the year he didn't get Oliver and he went 200. Remember that, Chris? Where you were
When's he playing Adelaide?
When you were just short.
When's Clayton Oliver playing Adelaide?
When you were just short of getting Clary and you said, is this the week? Swizz?
Oh.
If you had to make the decision between Horn-Francis and Rowell, which way would you go?
Horn-Francis, get the fuck out.
Don't have Horn-Francis. So,
If you did, hypothetically, if
people do, mate, this is the
it's a big one. Look, I think Horn-Francis has more money to make. I think that.
Yeah, but his break even's like 50 odd, so it can go either way.
I really made 100K out of Horn-Francis, and he's a guy that could get to 400K.
On field though. Come on, Rowell at a shit week is like a 7. He gets a 70 and everyone's complaining like, oh, Rowell got a 60 or a 70. Whereas if like Horn-Francis goes 70, everyone's like, yeah, Horn-Francis 70. Like it's a no-brainer. Horn-Francis, get the fuck out. I love you, but no.
Well, again, if it's the difference that you need that money, that's 90K. That's a lot of money. Is it 90? It's 313 for...
it's something like that.
Yeah. It's 90K, man. That's
about right.
Again, difference between an Uber or a premium. You know what I mean?
If you look at their stats the last 3 weeks, Horn-Francis' stats have been better than Rowell's.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had that like 90 odd. Yeah.
Rowell had 100 3 weeks ago.
Oh, shut up, Swizz.
We're obviously saying
the stats.
Yeah.
They're both going the same. They both go at like 18 touches and get like 5-6 tackles. So you could be right that there could be just something up with Rowell.
Yeah, you might be right.
And
I think he's injured, guys. I watched him play and he wasn't hunting the ball like he normally would. He was a step behind the play. He's lost a little bit of his pace. Like he's usually pretty good on the spread. He's lost a lot of his pace, and I just think he's injured. I think that those two knocks took a lot more.
One of the two, I think you keep Horn-Francis one more week because he's got a chance of actually going up in value, and you could turn him into Oliver the week after.
And Horn-Francis
that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at going Rowell to Rosas this week, and then putting that money onto Horn-Francis next week to get Oliver.
What's Horn-Francis break even? It's not even that bad, is it? It's because he's still got that 94 in his cycle.
It's 51.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 51.
You'd say he'd probably, in a normal week, he'd go over that.
If you could keep him for a week, then you would keep him. And if he beats it, then it's like happy days. And if he doesn't, then it's time to get rid of him.
And he's had 4 scores. And every second score he's had has been in a 90. So hopefully that trend continues and he gets another 90 this week.
One thing I will say is this.
Against Geelong, but...
So I think you're both right. But just have a think. Have a look at your team. So what happens next week? Who's going out next week? Who's going out the week after? And how much is that person going to either gain or lose? So if you're only going to hold Horn-Francis to trade him next week anyway, well, then maybe you trade him.
Or that one might make more sense. But if you have to get rid of Rowell next week to get an Oliver who you're set...
then you've lost 30K or whatever.
Yeah, who you're dead set on getting, then it makes sense.
So think about your team. I've still got Josh Ward sitting there that is probably going to go next week. I got Connor McDonald's. I've got some shitty rookies, right? So I've got guys that are probably going to go out of my team. I know that they're going to come out of my team. Whereas some other people don't have those guys, and they've the next available guy to trade out is either a Rowell or it's a Horn-Francis. So if they're going to go in the next couple of weeks anyway, then
fuck it. And if they're not even on your field, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
take a 20. Who cares if they're
where
going to make 20 grand? You get more points on field if you're going for overall.
That's where trading Rowell comes into it, because if you're not keeping him until the bye, trade him now while he's at value. Because otherwise you'll lose on this week, and then you got to wait another couple of weeks to make that money back.
Horn-Francis down is like 170,000 or 180,000, and literally Rowell up is basically you get a Petrarca. That's literally the 2 for 2. Yeah. You can go Petrarca and Roses, however you say it. Sorry,
Rowell and JHF.
And Rowell and Horn-Francis. It's literally, for me, I'm like, cool, I'll take Petrarca. Done.
That's the decision I've got to make, because I can actually use a boost and then just get Tracker this week if I really want the points on field.
Yeah.
The question is if I want to use that boost or not.
Mate, I haven't used a boost since I was a baby.
That was terrible.
And to add on to what you were just saying about Ward, because I think there's a few talking about, do we move him and when do we move him and stuff. Did he have something like, what do you have, 21 CBAs this week? I think he's the one that you could hold for 2 more weeks, and he's the one for either Hobbs or even the week after for Clark, because I think he's still got, if he's playing that much in the midfield, he's going to have that one good game. Like, it's coming.
Yeah.
And his break evens really, because I've heard a few people talking about, should I move Ward on now? His break even's still 26. Like, he can pump out his 65 for the next couple of weeks still and make another 20, 30K.
Yep. And with Ward as well, especially with that low break even. And Rowell, I think even Bryce Mitchell was saying that even if he goes 90 the next sort of couple of weeks, he kind of restabilizes his price. Now, I know it's hard to say because he's had a couple of shit scores, but if he does break out like 100 or like or 290s in a row, pretty much he goes back to that 400k anyway. So it's not like he's an expensive premium that he's going to go too far past what you can get back. And because of his high ceiling, if he's best on ground 1 week, he's going 150. Like, it's just one of those ones.
But that's what Chris was saying. It's going. But then if you're planning on keeping him to the bias, that's the move. If you're at the moment like myself or Chris going, okay, we can upgrade this guy to get in Tracker or Oliver, then move now so you don't lose that cash, because next week he's gone for me anyway because I want Oliver in my side.
And even if, let's say he goes 120, he's only going to go up because of his break even. He might go up 10K.
Yeah. So but if he goes 120, you're keeping him. So for me, I'm getting rid of Berry, and I like Berry. I'm getting rid of Berry before I get rid of Rowell. I'm getting rid of Caldwell before I get rid of Rowell.
See, I'd rather keep Berry this week because they are playing the Suns.
I'm trading them all.
Burn
their fucking house down.
Me too, but I'd rather keep Rowell at like an M8. And that's...
Yeah, but Berry, I like those games Berry still has coming into the bye where it's Adelaide, Hawthorn. They got West Coast in there.
I'm off Berry.
I think
they're not using him like they did in the preseason, and I'm not sure why, to be completely honest. I've watched a lot of Brisbane this year, and how they're using Berry compared to how they were in the preseason and how they talked him up in the preseason, completely fucking different.
They're cherry picking him. The Berry has fallen.
It's fucking terrible. It's a Supercoach role that's not ideal, and that's why his scoring is poor. It's not because he's having bad weeks or he's not using the ball well. The role that he has is not conducive for Supercoach scoring anymore. And so I'm glad that I traded out of him. And he'll have those weeks where he gets 90, but he's not going to have those 120, 140 weeks like we thought that he was going to have.
He could this week. I'm sorry, Chris. I don't.
That's why if I've got the choice this week, Berry's definitely staying for this week over Rowell for me, because low break even. Berry playing the Suns, I think he's still got the chance to go sort of 80, 90. I'm really worried about Rowell and how he's playing at the moment. I've got no confidence in his body.
Yeah, that's fair, but I don't know. Maybe it's sentimental. Maybe I have a little bit of faith. Boys, you don't even give me any cherry picking or the Berry has fallen fucking credos. Nothing.
I heard it.
I'm just done with it. It's been too long.
It's because you don't have Berry. That's why. You have no love.
Berry was gone ages ago.
Berry
fell far away from the tree.
Berry is as good at first quarters as Hall is at staying on the park. No, that's wrong. Berry's really good at first halves. Berry is as good at second halves as Hall is at staying on the park. There you go. Berry is killing it first halves. He's sitting there like 40, 50, 60 points at halftime and then does nothing. Literally nothing. It's like the Zoolander of the guy that can't turn left.
And that's the thing, like, I don't mind keeping him because it's not like he's going, okay, he got his 30 in the first half, 30 in the second, and he's just playing shit. He's legitimately getting 50, 60 and a half a footy. So there's going to be that one game where I'm thinking, well, he's going to put it all together and he's going to get his 120.
That makes sense.
And it should be this week against the Suns.
And I'd keep Berry over Whitfield at this point in time. So there you go. That's pretty much enough evidence that you need, boys. Can we talk about trade-ins? Now, trading in. Who's on your horizon outside of the people that we've spoken to already? Defense, midfield, and forwards. Swizz, I'll get you 5 players that you're really looking at. Okay, over the next 4 rounds, who am I eyeing off with a passion?
I was actually just having a look at who people are trading in this week because I was kind of fascinated by that. Just, Rosa's Sinclair, everyone's fucking jumping on him now. 2.6% are finally getting on the English train, Bailey Smith. But anyway, to answer your question, for me, it's all midfielders because I don't really want. The only defender is Jake Lloyd.
Thank you.
Only because I think he levels out for price. But I'm just sort of worried a little bit about the kind of the role compared to a couple of the other defenders. Like I think Stewart, Sicily, how well did he play last on the weekend? And even Witherden, I've kind of looked at and thought, well, maybe, but he didn't have McGovern there, so maybe I want a little bit more data on that. But yeah, Lloyd in the defence. There's literally nobody at the forwards, as we've talked about, outside of maybe Lipinski. If I wanted to do that early and move him there and then rotate, but for me, it's all midfielders. So it's do I jump on Trucker or Walsh this week or Brayshaw, and then definitely Oliver next week. And if I do bank the cash, it will be both Oliver and Track. So you can have them 1 and 2. And then it's just, a question on, I don't have Jack Steele at the moment too. I kind of really hoping GWS tag this week because they refused to tag last week against Melbourne for whatever stupid reason.
I know. Hell yeah.
So, so I'm probably in that basis where I'm trying to actually work out how I can have enough cash to even maybe not use a boost this week, use the boost next week, and go bring in Steele, Oliver, Track all at the same time? Or do I use it this week and sort of have a look at Track and his break even if I want to go down that way? And as I said, I'm also looking at Brayshaw and Walsh. So this week, if I wanted to use a boost, it would be looking at Walsh, debating Walsh, Brayshaw, or Track. And then next week, Oliver, and then possibly Steele, and then Lloyd.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Brayshaw, Walsh, Green, I think they're all kind of tying off for around that sort of top 8 to 10 mark.
There's a definite 6 to 7 guys that I think are clear.
And then it's a bit of a...
throw a towel around the next 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think
and
you're right.
Green's in that conversation at the moment, but we want to wait and see what Toby Green has to say about that. I'm the same, and I don't think anything changed. The only thing I'll add to that is Doherty, obviously, but you got Doherty last week, right, Swizz? So you don't need Dockers.
And me. And me.
I'm all of a sudden in the market for a defender, guys, because Luke Ryan at D4 is not ideal.
Oh, what did he go this week? He did great at half.
Dude, 55 at half time and 92 at full. I'm so sick of you, Luke Ryan. I tell you what, come on, man.
Hey, at least he's playing for you.
To be fair, that ball did not go down that back line that whole third quarter.
It's just frustrating, but not
his fault, mate. He looked so good. I was on Luke Ryan watch for you.
Thanks, mate.
Because I was like, and I just love the guy. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch him closely. He was everywhere, intercept marks, dominating in that back line. He was taking kickouts, doing everything you want. And that third quarter, can't go down. If it doesn't go down there, you can't touch the ball. A bit like Doherty had at one stage at
third quarter.
Yeah, because the ball just doesn't go near. So you can't help.
And look, there's a few that I'm looking at. I can tell you right now that I liked obviously Lloyd. Yeah, he actually came back a bit, but I mean those soft tons, they're saying to me, do not pick me.
They're not strong tons. Hey,
no,
you look like
not one.
Stewart, on the other hand,
big tons. When he goes big, he goes big.
A couple of low tons, but now you've seen the big score, and you're like, okay, like he looks good. Whereas Lloyd, it's kind of like, okay, are they going, Lizard? Are they going was it McInerney?
McInerney.
Yeah. So, and are they using other people? Is
Campbell's
Lloyd
still using it a lot down
is
there?
Lloyd?
Well.
And exactly. Campbell. Are they just going? Is Lloyd now just too old where they have more distributors? So I know Ryan is a similar situation where you've got
young Chapman.
Yeah, young
Logue
Chapman
still tearing it up.
Logue if he's in the team, right? But it makes sense. But as in, I think for Ryan, I think he still has the high ceiling where it kind of buffers out a little bit. So from that 90, one other week, it's a 130 if he carries on. Lloyd, if you're picking him at a lower price, it's a pick on faith. And that's literally...
And history, right?
And history. That's all you can judge on. It's like, hey, Lloyd's a low 500K. He's normally a good scorer. I'm going to pick him up and hope that he starts to tear shit up. And that is literally the only logic and the only statistic you can base it on. And I'm looking at going that way.
There's also the fact, if you look at the buy options too. So, I mean, his buy is quite favourable for defenders, whereas a lot of guys have the early or the later buy.
Him and Stewart are good.
Yeah, so him, and then you've got Jordan Dawson as well in that buy. I don't mind Jordan Dawson. So yeah, there's a few there, but in midfield, so the ones that I'm looking at, obviously just because of their price point right now, is Track and Oliver. I think you can't go anywhere outside of those guys immediately.
But you already went Steele, though, yes?
I got Steele last week.
Okay, yep.
So that's helped me out. The one that's really sort of there's two very not even that left field, two very good options that you could also weigh up there. Callum Mills is also one that's the same price basically as Petrarca. Base 575K, I think he's for 574 in 1% of teams. So if you want to go that sort of left field option, Mills is the one there. The one that's more expensive that I love is also in 1% of teams is Rory Laird. So with Sloan out, looks like what season-ending ACL is it?
It is. He's gone. Yep. He's done.
So Keys now, obviously, you got Keys, Crouch, and Laird. And Laird, he had that first week back, had a 93 or whatever. Then he's gone 140, 120. Honestly, Laird could easily average 120 this year without blinking. So,
my only issue with Laird is because he is that more expensive compared to a couple of the other boys.
Yes,
but yeah, at the same time, does it really matter if he's going to score? They don't really have the same sort of draw coming up. I think they've got the Dogs, the Giants, so it's always a chance to be tagged. The Blues, Lions, Cats, even the Saints at the moment. So
how far away is that GWS game?
2 weeks.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, it could be right.
God, you can jump on Track and Oliver and wait for that tag and just hope that in week 3 he gets a big one, and then you can focus on upgrading your others.
That's where, to me, even though they've got GWS in 3 weeks, Walsh has, after the Fremantle game, he has North Melbourne and Adelaide. They've got the Pies and the Bombers in that. So, would you prefer Laird or Walsh? That's an interesting.
I mean, look,
question.
I just don't have enough data with Walsh in his role with all the guys there and Cripper, right? So
it's tough though.
That's a tough call.
That's sentimental. The one thing I do with Adelaide is Adelaide have been winning games. I don't know if I trust them to continue their winning form. Now, we saw Sydney last year, right? Young team, impactful, doing their whole, basically, this is the structure we're going to run, and we're going to run through this format. And they killed it to start the year. And all of a sudden, they started to lose games because, number one, they're young, they start to fatigue. Number two, teams actually understand what they're about, and they're not good at adapting once other teams figure out what plane they're on. Now, I think Adelaide will be very similar. Not that they're underrated, but I'm saying they look dynamic, they look to play their brand, right? But I think fatigue will kick in for the young people, right? And their explosive nature. And I think that other teams will start to get a bit of an understanding on the way they like to play and try and jam them.
I think you're right, but I don't think winning has ever impacted Rory Laird's scoring.
No, not Laird, but I'm talking in general. So when you look at some of these other players like Keys and I think Laird will still rack up the ball. But outside of that, with any of those Adelaide players like Dawson, I'm talking Dawson and a few others. The pie
and the whole scoring around that as well. Like, just look at Mills. Like, round 1, tagged GWS 84. The games that he's played that they've won: Geelong 147, North 130, West Coast 117. Bulldogs, they lose. He scores 70. So yeah, like, I don't think Laird is going to fluctuate as that badly. But yeah, winning always helps. So that's why I'm sort of looking at those teams like Melbourne, the Dogs. It's interesting, two of the higher trading players this week, especially the biggest one of those sort of premium type dudes is Bailey Smith, because I guess a lot of people like his price and the fact he's racking up the ball at will. What are your thoughts on Bailey Smith, boys?
If he gets any type of forward role, he's an absolute lock. But I just can't. The problem, like Hunter's out. I honestly think Smith is the one that gets the more wing time now. So he probably gets less forward time, more on the wing. But that's not good for Supercoach scoring because he needs more centre bounce attendances to impact his scoring positively.
I think he's now first out. Now, aesthetically, I think people get sold on a dream. Now, aesthetically, Bailey Smith looks fucking immaculate. I would go there. Do you know what I mean? Look, is it like to pick someone?
You would.
Right. No, we get it. No,
no.
Let's go.
Oh, come on now. No. Hey, come on now. I'm saying is in if you're trying to pick someone who is athletic, dynamic, runs all day, looks good while playing, and is aesthetically appealing, and I say that as in he is probably the most liked.
Isaac Heaney without the 122 average.
Isaac Heaney without the injury issues. No, but as in, when you talk about he's probably the most liked on social media out of any other player. He beat Dustin Martin, right? So you kind of look at that and go, okay, he's an icon of someone that, hey, fuck yeah, he's killing it, so let's get on him. I like watching him play. And that's okay, but I do think that his role will become more outside onto that wing, and it does create an issue because it's like, well, Liberatore or Bontempelli are now going inside in CBAs, and he's going outside.
It's 522. So I mean,
522.
It's
so
Cripps,
it's now
right?
or never.
Yeah,
it is.
You get him. You get on him now, and he goes. Is he like? So if you had a plan that Rowell was going to be your M8, and that's been blown out of the water, then 120 grand of Bailey Smith, you could do a lot worse.
I'd rather
because
go Green.
M8, he's not terrible.
There's
Green
two,
or Bailey Smith.
Well, there's two.
Green or Bailey Smith.
Well, there's two. Well, the reason I nearly lean to Bailey Smith on that because we don't know what happens when Toby Green comes back. And
I can tell you what happens.
Start going that Giants midfield
Nah.
because now Kelly and Taranto should be playing, and Cogs should be playing more time in there instead of rotating through that forward line.
Green
but Bailey Smith
shits on them.
Oh mate, he looks good. Green looks fantastic.
I'll tell you why.
But Bailey Smith. Now that mate, I'll tell you why.
No, I'll tell you why. I am Spartacus.
Bailey Smith's next few games are Adelaide, Essendon, Port, Collingwood, Gold Coast, and West Coast.
That's great for a winger.
Yep, mate, he's going to fucking rack up 40 possessions every game.
Nah, not every game. Now, he does okay. Now, here's the issue so Tom Green, right? 547K. So you bring stats in to help boost your arguments, Wiz. Right. he's already up 117,000 now. So I know it's a lot. And it's at that point where you're like, can we ignore him a lot, like going forward? Now, he's in the mix for me with your Brayshaws, with your Walshes and those kind of other guys because number one, he's already shown he has a high ceiling, right? So he's already got a good game. If he hit 3 behinds this game. If he kicked any of those, all of a sudden he's way better than like a 115 or whatever he got. Okay, so he got a 115 this week. Now, here's the thing. Toby Green, I think, is very important for this side. I already saw Taranto getting some CBAs. Kelly is definitely not that pitbull that is in GWS, right? When you look at Leon Cameron, he needs a pitbull. He needs hope. He needs something to keep his job. And he's I think, realistically, an optimist at heart because he knows he needs wins. Right now, Tom Green is their best inside midfielder. And I mean inside midfielder because, number one, he's tall, he's big, and he's heavy. And he can win that contested fucking ball. Now, Josh Kelly, nice. He's meant to be clean, good disposal. He can win it inside, outside. He's not a pitbull. He's not big enough. He's not tall enough compared to Green. Taranto, the same. Literally, Green compared to Taranto, compared to Kelly, compared to Cornelio. He's fucking twice their size. He's a fucking pitbull. He's tall, he's strong, and he's a great contested beast. And he's probably the only one that looks like it.
That round 4, he only had 14 CBAs, and he scored 92 against Freo.
So yeah, he can score.
But that's the Leon Cameron factor right there.
They need
him. He did not play him as much in the midfield that day
because they needed him forward.
Less. Now there's no guarantees.
But because they needed him forward, because he was hitting the scoreboard, and because he had forward impact. Again, we're talking about someone who was tall and could take a mark and could kick. Now Toby Green, fuck Taranto. Toby Green coming back in frees up Green more than it frees up Taranto.
Oh, have we? Okay, can I just stop? I've got to stop. I've got to stop you both. All right, because there's no way we're bringing in a GWS midfielder again. Let's just put it
That
out
was
there.
our number one
Why
rule
do
at
it
the
to
end of last
ourselves?
year.
Why do it?
Why?
We've got another fucking GWS midfielder that's going to put more question marks and headaches in your team than worth it. Just don't do it. You've already done it, haven't you?
No. I've been. He's one person that I do like to watch, and I have considered because the breakout is real.
Look, we've already got our quota of GWS midfielders
Chris,
in Cornelio.
Chris, if you follow my Twitter, or if you follow our Twitter, should I say, because I run the official. Basically, it was two things holding me back. Number one is I have the first buy. Now, I don't want to be bringing in people with the first buy. Now, if you are playing
Second is someone bigger actually physically holding you back.
It's the coach, right? The second one's the coach. But if you are playing for a league and you're trying to stack the first buy or the second buy or the third buy or whatever you're doing, fuck yeah, go nuts. If you're stacking first buy round players, Green has a ceiling enough to do well, and as far as a price point, he's still very achievable. Now, would I prefer Petrarca for an extra 30k? Yes, I would. Right? But I think
Of course.
the hype, I think, is at this point is real. His role, he is doing that well that they can't take it from him. And I think Toby coming in actually kind of frees him up because he was kicking so many goals that he can now play more CBAs. Sorry, boys.
Yeah.
That's my Green scenario.
Just not worth it for me. He's just in a splattering of 8 other midfielders around the same price that I could just easily grab to as well.
And the first buy and the Cameron factor is real, yes?
There's just too many question marks.
The one that I know Chris doesn't like, who's not far above Smith and Green, and I got asked about this, is Tommy Mitchell, who just
not happening.
put out a nice 142 against the Cats.
Yeah, that was
I
all.
know what you think, Chris.
All in the second half, though.
I got to get
Yeah,
off
I
this
know.
fucking podcast.
His second half was massive.
Yeah, second half was massive. That's great. Break even of 67. He's 567,000.
He's hit some targets in the second half, so all of a sudden people.
But his first half was so shit that literally I'm thinking about keeping Whitfield. His first half was that shit. I am like, it's one of those things. I'm okay. Tom
Is it one of those things, buddy?
It is one of those things. Fuck you.
Oi, Spiz, did you hear how many times he says it's one of those things when there's actually about 70 things on a podcast?
It's probably about 70 things.
You know, Josh Kelly's the same price as Green and Bailey Smith.
Yeah, but Josh Kelly is a shadow of his former self.
Again, GWS.
Only because Buddy Cameron played him full forward when they needed to win the game against us.
Him and Whitfield have been disgraceful. Literally, they have been so bad as far as their points per minute and their price point as much as they're getting paid that even Grundy's going, wonderful. I'm glad people are taking the heat from me.
Wonderful.
Literally, 7-year pay deal of providing nothing.
Did you say the Giants got the first buy? They do. Oh,
Yeah.
how cheap can Josh Kelly get? So after that first buy,
Oh, cheap enough to maybe pick
they
him.
play North Melbourne the week after. Oh,
Yep. I still don't mind Green. I would love the extra bit of data. I think he's due for a bit of a, not a Stewie due, but just a generally due for a lower score. And if he is still doing well by that buy point, I would happily pick him up after the first buy.
Matter. Like, whatever.
After the first buy. But before that point, first buy, don't pick any more players in that buy unless you have we've gone for, a league win.
Here's why I don't like Tom Mitchell, though, just to make a point there.
Oh, here we go.
In that last quarter, what did the Hawks do to make them win the game?
Nothing. The Hawks did nothing.
No, they rotated through their young midfield core.
They were shit.
That's what they did. They put Josh Ward in the centre clearances for every single CBA, and they won with them. They literally ran the Geelong midfield out with their young.
As I said to you guys, I had a nice little win in Draft Stars, and I had both Newcomb and who was their other little midfielder in there?
Connor McDonald played in there, and also Josh Ward also played in the CBAs. Both of them had CBAs in the last quarter. A lot of CBAs.
So naturally, we'll stick around with those guys. It was just something that had been asked. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I prefer the big dogs, which is McRae, Neil, Tukes, Steele, Track, Oliver, Brayshaw, and then pick your last one, Cripps or Walsh or Green or.
Yeah, I think Brayshaw's still in that iffy mix.
I think Brayshaw's the clear 7th.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just with
He's
the five. It's the five factor.
He's there by himself on his own tier.
It's the 5 factor. If 5 comes back pure midfield,
and
then
remember Freo's good draw at the start of the season, right?
Hey, you laugh at that. They're 4 from 5. You fucking dickhead.
You know,
Four
just
from
wait till they
five.
pay the pies in that last round, all right? And then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and then they'll be going for
Bring them
7
a
out
lot
of
more than
10.
two.
They're 2 wins away, Chris. They need 2 from 5 for you to pay up, my man.
All right.
And that's a pay up early.
I think that pretty much rounds us
hang
out.
on.
Is there anything else that we're going through?
Trade-ins.
That is, we just went through all the trade-ins.
No, we didn't. We covered
we
on a
did.
few midfielders. That was about it.
Oh, there's no...
Jack Steele,
yeah.
Sinclair.
Oh, fuck
Everyone's
Sinclair.
No,
No,
I don't like
What are
it.
Let's
your
go
thoughts?
defense. Defense is the
I-
main one.
I'm the
Forwards,
same.
fuck forwards. Forwards are shit.
Good.
Yeah.
We should mention why we don't like him, but it's obviously what's coming back. We just want more data, right? So we know that Zach Jones is back this week. We also know that Hunter Clark is only a
soon.
couple of weeks away.
I think that impacts that midfield rotation.
Absolutely. And, you know, Jack Sinclair drops behind the ball a lot. He plays as that midfielder that comes behind the ball, whether it's to take an intercept possession, he drops back into defense, or to rotate behind the ball if he's playing on the wing and is that defensive midfielder rotation. So he does get quite a few points behind the ball, even though he's obviously playing a lot more in midfield. So all of that is going to be taken away in the next couple of weeks, in my opinion. So he's also been, in his history of scoring, he's never been able to hold consistently this level of scoring. He's shown it in the past where he has purple patches and then it drops away. Now, that could be role dependent, or that just could be Jack Sinclair. Right now, it looks like a bit of both. He's having a purple patch and he's got the role. Do I think that holds for the season? Absolutely not. And so if you're jumping on at 550K, that is a lot of money now. Now, I can understand if you jumped in when he was in the 400s and you're now riding that wave and, you know, worst case scenario, his role changes when someone comes back, you can sideways him out like you've got options. But now jumping in at 550K, you're paying premium price and expecting a premium return. I'm not exactly sure that's going to happen. So for me, it's a no-go zone.
No, I agree. I'm actually, if you don't have Short, you could definitely wait after his real shit round there, Swizz. I'm keen to hear your input on that quickly. Also, as well, the reason why we're touching on midfielders so much is that, number one, you've got Dacos and you've got O'Driscoll, right? 2 players that you could easily have on field in your defensive line. Now, most people started with maybe 4 sort of defenders anyway, plus some other rookies. Realistically speaking, people went light in the midfield. They went with 3 premium mids with a Rowell, maybe a Berry and a Caldwell and other rookies, right? So now Dacos is now a defender. We've got some other forwards, you know, like Martin that can now go into that midfield. So realistically, midfield is where it's at. Midfield is where we started light. Midfield is where we need the bulk points. And there's no point in having a 5th or a 6th defender right now and going and trying to, hey, like, oh, Stewart's pretty good. It's like, well, hey, for Stewart, you can literally go and get Petrarca within a few thousand. It's midfield is now. That is literally probably the only scenario. Forwards, you got Duncan. Sure, Duncan's really low. You've got Parker, who's probably on the horizon. You've got Lipinski, who's really cheap. But again, forwards are doing generally pretty well. The rookies are doing well. The mid-prices are doing well. It's a midfield time. And basically, you're looking for guys that are top 8 to 10 and buying. So as far as people to trade
well, I
in,
think
it's literally
you
midfield.
need
Swizz?
You need the top 6, mate. McRae, Neal, Tuke, who's going to get cheap for those who didn't start him.
And
lucky
Steele,
people.
find a way.
Steele,
Find a way.
yeah, Oliver and Track.
Yep. So for
That's
me,
going to be your 6.
you boys, I think I didn't really have my say, but for me, Petrarca, Clayton Oliver, Steele are my main 3 mids. Gorn, I don't have in yet, but I do want in. Right, I'm hoping he gets cheap.
I can wait.
I can wait, but I'm hoping he can get cheap. As soon as he gets cheap, though, the second Gorn's cheap,
Not getting cheap.
I'm keen to jump on, right, because I still think he's top 2.
Going 130 this week, boys.
Yeah, unlucky.
Okay.
And Lloyd is my 5th only because of faith. Not that there's any...
English still outscores him. I don't care.
Logistics.
English against.
But English is forward.
Not in my team.
Anyway, so that's why when we talk about trade-ins, that's why it's midfield-centric. It's not because we just like the midfield. It's literally where, the big points are made. It's where the big boys come and play. And when you look at 3 people with a good trade, like with a good ranking, and we'll include you in this, Swiss, midfield's where it's at.
It is, because especially, you know, you might get to the buy period and still need a defender. It could be a case with, say, a Witherden, for example. Somebody like that could be 500K, and West Coast, say, Hearn went down and McGovern went down, or there could be cheaper options. You can always pick up a defender or a forward for 450 to 500. But the premium midfielders, It's $5.50, and that's as cheap as they get.
Yeah, and the other thing to say as well, looking at ruck options, guys, just take a little bit of a squiz at who Darcy faces before the bye and after. Now, unfortunately, he does have the last bye, but he is dead set on my radar as my last upgrade target because he's just going to actually, if he's healthy, fit and healthy, Darcy is going to have the biggest second half of the season, in my opinion. It's just ridiculous. So, if you're looking for a ruck target and you don't have one right now, but you've got Bruce and you've got Hayes and you've got someone you can field until the buys, look at Darcy after that. It's going to be amazing.
So you're thinking what?
Yeah,
Gorn and Darcy?
I was going to mention that too. Yeah,
Gorn Darcy.
So Grundy's dead in the water.
Grundy's done for me. I don't think he's going to be top
they're
2.
done, mate.
Yeah, well, I'm fucked then.
That's one of the trade out things. Well, that's one of the trade out things that we didn't discuss because a lot of people were talking about what do they do with Grundy right now.
Well, I mean, I discussed it. We discussed it a little bit earlier, didn't we? When we were talking about, what do you do with Bruce coming in, right? Or is he on your field, etc. But
man,
I made the trade.
Witz is averaging like 8 points better.
Yeah,
man, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, Grundy right now obviously averaging 98.4. He got a 53, which means he's dropped 32K. I think his break even's exactly 150 from memory. So the likelihood is now
it's
someone
achievable.
challenged me on this.
Someone
actually challenged me on this last week when I put it on Twitter before I made the trade. I put it on Twitter that I was going to do it, right? And they're like, "Oh, Grundy's going 140 this week." I'm like, "Well, as a matter of fact, mate." I don't know. I can't remember his name, but I would add him right now if I could. So as a matter of fact, buddy, Grundy hasn't gone 140 plus. He's gone once in 17 games. Now it's 18 games. Once in 18 games. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that math tells me that I'm more likely than not, he's not going 140. That's just clear.
Mate, I was the same. I got called out because somebody said, no, his last game against Brisbane was 160. And I was like, that was against Fullerton. And to credit, they actually came back to me and said, actually, you're correct. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys that don't own Grundy.
It's just, it was calculated play. But that's just to say that when was the last time that you saw Brodie Grundy in actual form? Because we were so used to Brodie Grundy banging out, 130 after 130 after 150 after 150. Like, it was very, very commonplace. The last time he did that was the start of last year.
I think
It's been a long time.
I think he does it this.
Should have left you.
I think he does it this week.
Without this double beat to step 2.
Yeah, he'll do it this week. Draper's.
Yeah, I think he does
terrible, mate.
I think he does it this week, and mainly because number one, Essendon suck.
And if he doesn't, what happens?
No, and it's Anzac Day, so I think a big occasion on a big day against who's Essendon ruck again? It's
Well, that'll
Draper,
also depend on what McRae does with the rucks.
Phillips is out. Phillips will be out.
Yeah, Phillips is gone.
Yeah. So it'll be Draper, ruck.
So Grundy against Draper. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think Grundy goes well.
And I hope he does because everyone who has him will keep
stay on him. Yeah.
Because they'll be like, oh yeah, but he scored that 140 on Anzac Day.
It'll be a false dawn.
And then I'm like, good. Yeah. You've been living with that for the last 6 weeks. That's exactly what's going to happen. He's going to go 140 this week, and we'll get to the bye times, and people will be like, oh, Grundy only averaged 90 for the last 6 weeks, and it's like, yeah, because things we were saying 6 weeks ago.
That'll be me, boys. I'll be hiding Grundy.
That'll be you, mate.
And I'll be getting in Lloyd for sentimental reasons and wondering why I finished 5,000th.
Did you guys see the CBAs for the Pies game last week? Do you know Grundy wasn't leading the CBAs? So
I know.
I think it was Adams that had the most CBAs and Grundy was third.
That's fucked up.
Because they played the extra tall, and they had the Mason Cox, they had Kruger, and they had Cameron.
And Grundy spent half of the first quarter off.
The Goey and Pendlebury. So Lockie Neal had 29, and then you had Grundy at 25 and Big O at 23. But we said that earlier in the day. Like they had 4. Well, Roughhead used to be a ruckman.
Yeah,
so technically they had 5 ruckmen.
Well, Roughhead's injured. He's out for 4 weeks, I think.
That's rough.
He's having surgery on a finger that he injured, obviously. But Darcy Cameron, who was subbed out at 3/4 time, is healthy. And so he could potentially
play. That's weird.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Really weird.
Yeah, really weird that they wanted extra run on the ball.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, they went in too tall. It's just stupid. Yeah, it's not even weird at all.
We were saying it all day.
So Darcy Cameron missed the last quarter,
what was
and
the
yet
solution?
he was still not leading the CBAs at full time. So, I mean, look, we've given you all the information. You make your own decision. But if I'm playing for points, I'm trading Grundy.
Even now, even after he lost 30,
No, I think you've got to hold him this week. He's going to destroy Draper.
Yeah, but why? I mean, if he's your only avenue,
Well,
to
it depends. If you're going Bruce, if you don't have Bruce, yeah,
who are
you
GWS
kind of
playing
do
this
it.
week?
If GWS are playing St Kilda on the Friday night,
Marshall.
So it's Marshall and Hayes, and you're saying hold Grundy.
what do you mean? If you
Fuck you boys.
well,
and
if
your
you're going to
options.
go Grundy to Bruce, but I'm thinking if you could bring Bruce in as your R3 and hold Grundy for one more week.
Yeah, I mean that's
And then
true.
flick
I
Grundy
mean, at
the
least
week
you're going to
after.
get the cash gen. You just don't get the Bruce on score. Bruce on
Yeah,
score.
you just not get the Bruce score.
Unless you've got an option, yeah, and you didn't start Gorn, and you've got Grundy English, for example, where you could flick him around. Yeah, look,
Jeez.
it's an option. I mean, if he drops cash, he's probably not going to drop much, but he's not going 150, guys. I'm just going to put it out there. If Grundy goes well, he gets 125.
Not going to lie, boys.
Yeah, it's probably more realistic than that. But
This
watching
conversation
Draper
has gone for about
anyway.
an hour longer than
It
I
has.
thought. I'm a little bit shit-faced. Well, I'm suffering from what I call probably long COVID. And I am struggling more now than I was earlier.
I was trying to wrap this up about 45 minutes ago, but you guys kept
probably
going on
should've.
and on and on
Mate,
and
you-
on.
You probably should have.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not sure if it's because I
Apologies to
had
people there.
glandular fever or whether I'm just actually experiencing long COVID, but I'm probably finding it harder to get through the day than I was with COVID. Maybe it's because I sat around and did nothing while I had COVID. I don't know. But literally, I'm now... The scotch I thought would wake me up, and it has, but now I'm kind of a bit fucking scattered.
It's all good, bro. It's all good. Well, I suppose that is where we should end it, really. I say trade.
Yeah,
You guys
yeah.
say hold, and we're good.
No,
look,
I would say hold for 1 week if you can bring Bruce as R3.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is Grundy's week to at least score well.
I think he will probably score well this week. I think you're right there.
Yeah, and then because
I'm
you'll
not
hear it,
happy
everybody will come
because-
out and say,
yeah.
"Oh, I told you not to trade Grundy." Absolutely, that'll happen, and
Part
be
of-
like, and then 3 weeks later, those people will never hear from again.
That's also true. And you boys were literally kissed on the dick when you made this decision last week. And I was like, hey, wonderful. You two boys had the balls.
That
and
was
I
done
obviously...
by knowledge, mate.
I
Yeah.
didn't have the balls. No, but...
That was tough analysis. Call me Nick Wright, because that's
Yes.
how much I went into the stats.
Wow. But again, when we spoke about it, it made sense. But obviously, when you look at the data, sometimes things change and you need to actually have the standard deviation or the variance to actually change and shift your position. You need to shift your strategy, right? Because when we look at one preseason game, everyone's like, oh, I'm set this way, or this is what my structure should look like. And you boys looked at that and going, well, fuck, this is completely different to what we set up for, and I'm going to change. And a lot of people kind of hold on to that dear life and don't want to change at all. So I do kudos to you boys there. I'm looking at it going, well, I kind of feel better with my side with one, at least, premium in the ruck line and English forward. The number one ruck is in my forward line.
Yeah,
It's
you
an
should.
interesting one.
Go on.
Yeah, go on. I'd love to go Whitfield out to a premium, Petrarca, and go Grundy out to Gawn. That would be lovely. But then I've got the same amount of premiums and I've lost 250,000. So, yeah.
It is what it is.
No, all good. All
What's
good,
my
boys.
saying?
I don't even know. It's just one of those things.
It's just one of those things, boys. There you go.
All right.
That's it from us. Catch you later. 2
Yeah.
hours on the nose. And definitely it is 2 hours on the nose. Boys, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming along.
And we'll catch you next
Thanks
time.
for hosting, Ben. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, boys, and as we wrap up, I'll just say well done to all those people who've been reaching out, asking us questions, stuff like that. Keep hitting us up on Twitter. It's fantastic. So, no, we love all your support and keep going well out there in the Supercoach community.
Swizz, fuck you. Don't be a people pleaser. Hitting up the
Oh,
people. The people.
If they're still with us after 2 hours, we need to shout out the people.
Hey, if anyone's out there after 2 hours, send us on social media on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and just comment pineapple.
What? This guy needs to get off the fucking
Just send us a
No, no,
picture.
no, no.
Send us
Hey,
your
shush,
best
shut
picture
up,
of
shut
a
up.
best
pineapple.
drunk face of
Shut
Ben
up.
today. That's
Shut
what
up.
you need to do.
No, we
no,
want
shut
the
up.
best picture, your
No, no.
best, your funniest pineapple
can't-
picture.
They can't send a picture on YouTube right now. Just write pineapple and we will know you are the tits. We will know that you are an avid listener and we will give you respect. And if you pop up on our socials again, we will actually make time for you because you know why? We know you give a fuck. And that's why. So comment pineapple. As obscure as it
Pineapple.
is, pineapple, as obscure as it is, we will
Wordable.
know.
I got a feeling that this is Ben's safe word.
No. Safe. My safe word is no anal because that's where I go. Is it that type? Is it? Oh, no anal. Oh, sorry. Okay, code word.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Pineapple. 2 hours and you've made it.
All right.
Respect, and that's it from us.
Thanks, guys. We'll catch you
Bye.
next time.
Bye. Anal. Pineapple.
Pineapple.